Hey everybody, welcome to the
Hello,
Sunday Show.
everybody.
There you are.
Oh, I'm here. It's working. I was having technical difficulties, everybody. We're going to do our best to keep the show running smoothly. It is really hot here in Finland, at least for Finland. And so my electronics are literally overheating because we don't have air conditioning here, shockingly.
See, that's where we're different. It's hot here in Texas, but I do have air conditioning. And if I didn't, I would not be in Texas.
Yeah, it's this is a record-breaking, of course, summer for Finland with the heat levels. So it's not really something that people are usually ready for. Also, I'm in like a 200-year-old cabin, so there's like a mouse hanging out with me. It's really exciting. It's a little adventure over here
Nice.
on the Sunday show. But it is Sunday, July 27th. Matt and I are your hosts today, and we're excited to talk to some theists. We said this last time we hosted together. We want somebody to call in and say, "This is what I believe. This is why I believe it," and then we can engage in conversation. And Matt and I are both pretty curious people. We're going to have questions for you, and we love when those questions get answered. So we'll see if that can
That'd be
happen. But how
sweet.
are you today, Matt?
I'm okay. I scrambled a little bit. I am alone. Arden left me for a conference. She gets back tonight. And so I did some stuff and I played around in video games and stuff and tried to have some fun. And then I realized, oh, I have, it's Sunday show time. I've got several things that need to get done. I haven't eaten because my medication makes me never hungry. And I was like, I don't want to go do a show and then have hanger set in like right in the middle of the first call. So I pounded some vegan spicy nuggets right before we went live, which I'm sure will
Amazing.
confuse people. They're really good. So yeah,
We might
we
get
don't have
some
any calls
calls
signed up
even on
just
that.
yet. But as a reminder, it's 720-619-2288, or down below, there's a link in the description for you to use Call-in Studio to call us over a PC or your cell phone. Yeah, what Promise was saying, I mean, we both come from a religious background. And we are both here in part because not only do we no longer believe, but we've been engaging with people for years, trying to figure out, did we miss something? Or if we're able to help them by pointing out something they missed or overlooked or a fallacy. But there are people who really don't understand what a logical fallacy is or why it matters. And that's okay. I'm doing a couple of videos on logic and especially with people doing like, oh, that's so logical, which is a nonsensical phrase. That's like saying, oh, that's so mathematical. Yeah, if it's math, if you're talking about math, but you can't just look at the golden ratio and just be like, oh, that's so mathematical and act like there's some significance or gravitas in the statement. But basically, we, like every other human, are thinkers, and we're largely social creatures. And people around us believe things that we don't. And it's weird. Like, we used to believe, both of us used to believe in different but similar God concepts. We have friends and family who are believers. We engage with callers who are believers. And we're still confused because there doesn't seem to be any strong evidence for any of it. There's anecdotes and feelings and fear. And at this point, not only is it getting to where theists aren't actively trying to defend their beliefs, um, but it's like a good chunk of them have just given up. And the only thing they won't do is admit that they don't have a good reason. And that's fine. I get it. That can be a scary thing. It's one of the reasons why we support recovering from religion. They are not trying to talk you out of your religion. Um, I promise. Go ahead and steer this for a second. I'm having a weird
Yeah.
muscle pain.
Oh, yeah. Take care of that. Well, on that note, another thing that I've seen commonly happening is people using religion as an excuse for really awful behavior. And I've been very frustrated today, engaging in conversations with a bunch of Christian men who are defending marital coercion. I don't know if I can use the other word for it for what it actually is. Um, because they're saying that at the altar, God is giving their wives to them forever. And so they no longer need consent for anything. And that is something I experienced in purity culture. That is something I was taught. It's something I have a lot of women reach out to me. And so when people ask why I keep doing these shows or why I keep having these conversations or why it's important to me to have these conversations, it's because these beliefs don't exist in a vacuum. These people are actually using them in sometimes to harm others. And if these were things that people just kept to themselves and they just lived their lives, that would be one thing. But that's not always the case. A lot of times there's a lot of harm perpetuated.
Yeah, it makes me wonder. I mean, when we ask people, "Hey, tell us what you believe and why," um, there are some exceptions. If you're like, and granted, I'll as long as there's lines open and we'll take deistic colors and theistic colors of more vague types. It's getting to the point where Muslims and Christians just don't even make any effort most of the time. I wish they would, uh, because it would either we are here, we show up, and it's because we care about the world we live in. We would rather that we weren't deluded, and we would rather that you weren't deluded. Because if one of us is deluded, it makes it almost impossible for us to come to agreement on important things like what rights are we going to grant? How are we going to operate? What freedoms do individuals have? Do we care about lying? Do we care about violations of contracts? Do we care about the planet? Do we care about climate change? Do we care about, what's our position on immigration and a global community? All of those things are impacted by what people believe. Your beliefs inform your actions, and you always, always, always act in accordance with your beliefs. It's just that we have this thing that we do kind of called rationalization, where I believe it's wrong to steal, for example. And so you would think that if I believe it's wrong to steal, I would never steal. And that's largely true. But I may also believe that there are exceptions to that. If my pulled muscle on that rib a minute ago had instead been, chest pains and I was in need of a defibrillator, it would be fine for someone to break the glass at the pharmacy that's closed and steal the defibrillator and use it to save my life. And so you can do that, and you can say, "Oh, but now you're not acting in accordance with your beliefs," but you are, because you have a priority of beliefs, and one of them is it is more morally permissible for me to do something immoral to save someone's life in a time-sensitive, critical fashion or situation than it is for me to allow that person to die. And that's the kind of key example. But let's say you believe it's wrong to lie or to blaspheme. What does that do? What decisions do you make in your life based on your opposition to lying and blaspheming? And when do you find that you're excusing lying? Is it okay to lie on behalf of religious beliefs? Like, hey, I can just pretend that we have original copies of the Gospels and they were in fact written by Matthew, Mark, and Luke. And even though that's not true, I can act like it is because that might give the door open to someone. That might get them in so that the Holy Spirit can come and do a wondrous work in their life. And therefore, the ends justify the means. And there may be circumstances where those sorts of exceptions are correct. But if you're not going to at least acknowledge that, it ends up looking like hypocrisy of, oh, I think, And the other thing is, what difference does it make? If you have a God that you're convinced exists, and it doesn't interact with reality in any detectable way, and it doesn't have consequences for disbelief or actions, it's just a thing out there, then that God is less useful than this piece of cloth that I use to wipe my eyeglasses with, because at least this is something I can make use of. And it has some trivial consequence in my life. If there's a God out there that doesn't care if I know it exists, doesn't interact, doesn't have consequences for this, that God is absolutely useless to us.
And should be to you as well, which is why we also are hoping that you're reflecting during these conversations on if you care whether what you believe is true or not. I think that's something all of us hosts end up asking a lot of these callers is, do you care if what you believe is true or not? Because if you don't care, then why are we even having a conversation? You've already decided that you're okay basing something on dogma or on preference or on comfortability versus reality. And personally, I would like to live in reality, and I would like to be around other human beings that are choosing to live in reality as well. Like you said, if one of us is deluded, it really makes things more difficult for everybody else.
Yeah, it's I'm double checking the line thing right now.
I just did that.
Yep. I was verifying because they weren't lining up. So if you're out there watching the show right now and you have thoughts or questions, if you want to defend your God belief or your supernatural belief, maybe you don't believe in a God, but you believe that somehow or another we're souls and there's reincarnation, happy to discuss that. But if not, then what we're going to end up doing is, until such time as somebody's going to defend their theistic beliefs, we're going to start taking calls from people who already agree with us, who might have questions about arguments or our past or anything like that. But here we are, Sunday show on the line. I've shared out the links, and it's time. Everybody in chat, if you're an atheist, I want us all to get together right now, because it doesn't say that you have to be a believer. It just says wherever two or more of you are gathered together in my name. And so let's say right now, together, in the name of Jesus Christ, please, God, send us people to convince us you're real. In the name of Jesus Christ, please, God, send us someone to convince us you're real. I get asked on occasion, oh, have you ever hit your knees and prayed in earnest? Yeah. Till my legs fell asleep. Oh, I don't believe you.
Yep.
Okay. Because I don't believe you. Because if you'd done that, God would have revealed himself to you. It says, if you ask God to reveal himself, I know what it says. I also know what happened. So now you're in this position of either saying, I'm a liar, or there's something wrong with me where I'm stronger than God. I can prevent God from revealing himself to me. Or that you're wrong about whether or not God will reveal himself to people. And if you're wrong about that, are you wrong about why you believe? Are you wrong about how reliable your holy book is? Are you, because all I care about is it true? Because it could be the case that there is a God, and Promise and I could both be convinced that there is a God, and he's an absolute monster that we want nothing to do with, but we still believe he exists. Like, I believe there is a president of the United States. I believe that. And I believe that currently it is the individual that South Park just lampooned with extraordinary beauty. And yet I'm not going to respect that individual. I will respect the office to the extent that, the Constitution still exists and everything. But it's like, oh, hey, hang on. God won't reveal himself to you because then you'd have no choice but to worship. Really? Do you believe that there's a Satan who absolutely knows there's a God and still rebelled? I mean, because if that character exists, that character knows better than any living person that there is in fact a God and what his powers are, and yet does not worship. And so I don't see how a God revealing himself could force me to worship. Well, Matt, it's because of the consequences. As soon as you know God's real, then you know that your disbelief and your sin has you destined for hell. I should get a couple different hats because I could just alternate back and forth and do both sides of these conversations, having done them before. But the thing is, I can know someone exists, care about them, love them, and then later on, not like them at all. Definitely not worship them. So I don't see how the presence of clear evidence for a God in any way compels belief. And the only thing they can do is say, oh, yeah, but you speak all brave now, but if you were standing in front of God, you'd hit your knees. Maybe I would. I don't know. But if a guy comes into my house with a gun, I might hit my knees then too. That's not in any way a showing that I was wrong the whole time. Because as it stands right now, until there's sufficient evidence to warrant belief, I'm still right. And my position is I haven't seen sufficient evidence. And despite decades of doing more than any of you out there, like, let's be honest, there are people who've done this more than I have in varying doses. But the average person out there, the average believer out there, the person out there who doesn't know anything at all about scripture and soteriology and epistemology, I've done more than them. And I've been in this begging for strong evidence. And what we get is abstract philosophical things like, oh, well, everything has to begin. If it has a beginning, everything that begins to exist has a cause for its existence. And therefore, since the universe began to exist, it must have a cause. And therefore, that cause is God. These aren't real. These aren't useful positions. They're not even based in evidence. And they are comparing something that you cannot explore and have details about, like prior to the Planck time, what the universe was like. And you're comparing that with things in the universe. That's like telling me that the neighbor's house down the street is full of snakes because my house is full of snakes. I doubt it, but I can't rule it out. But I got loads of snakes, and that's a good thing. All right. You want to start taking some calls, Promise?
If we can get my mic to work.
Well, I think we're probably close enough to try, but Ty is calling from Vermont. Pronouns are they, them. Welcome, Ty. You are on the Sunday show with Matt and Promise.
Thanks for having me, folks. It's really nice to be a part of the show. I'm a long-time listener, first-time caller, so much appreciated. Love what you guys do, of course.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to call. It's been, I guess you guys weren't having any theists calling, but yeah, I'm an atheist. I have been since a pretty young age, but I was raised Christian, and I guess, yeah, in my call screen, I said I was still grappling with the effects of, like, all the indoctrination, all the dogma, all the superstition. I would say the superstition is probably the worst part, but yeah, growing up, I believed in God and demons and stuff, and I was always like terrified. I'm like a very anxious person, and it definitely added to that. But now, like, as an adult, I'm 25 now. I am engaged, and I'm trans, which is terrifying in and of itself. But yeah, my early days were formed around superstition, and I wanted to ask you two, like, how do you two reckon with, those kind of echoes that were instilled within you? And, like, do you ever notice things popping up? Like, I don't know, it feels weird because consciously I don't believe in religion and I don't believe in, the supernatural very much at all. But I still feel myself having these, like, it's almost like these small little chains trying to pull me back and, like, wanting to believe in things. I don't know if it's my mind wanting to, like, simplify the complex or what it is. But again, I'm conflicted because I don't actively believe, but I'm still feeling the echoes, if that makes sense. So I wanted to hear your takes on it, if that's all right.
Well, I'm wondering. So I don't experience that, but I've heard from people who do. Like, there is absolutely nothing
That's good
at all that makes me lean towards anything supernatural at all, or even want it to be the case. But to me, what we see is a lot of resistance to change. Like, I've always lived in this house, and now I've moved to a new house, and part of me wishes I was still at my old house. If it's something like that, that makes sense and is just kind of normal in our thoughts for, bygone times. I don't tend to live like that. I don't have a sense of nostalgia for a lot of things. And if I suppose if my situation got dramatically worse, I might regret that it wasn't better. But when you say there are things that seem to be pulling you back towards belief or wishful thinking towards belief, like, can you give an example?
Yeah, I wanted to clarify a little bit too, because I guess it's not maybe pulling me back towards like supernatural beliefs, but I think maybe it's more related to like the shame of, having to hide who I was my whole life, being told I wasn't allowed to do certain things that were affirming for me, stuff like that. Like, I guess more reckoning with the dogma and like all the shame that people instilled within me, because people were very, if you could use your imagination, they were pretty unkind to me growing up because I was raised, forced to be raised as a boy, even though that wasn't how I felt inside. And I knew that from a very young age, but never really had the,
Sure.
language to express those kinds of things, if that makes sense. So yeah, just to clarify, maybe not the supernatural as much as just like the feelings of like, I don't know. It's honestly just confusion. And you two are just very well thought out and experienced in this kind of thing.
Well,
Yeah,
I
I
know
don't know.
that.
It's a bizarre experience.
Yeah, I don't know how much this does or doesn't tie to religion specifically. I know things are um, much tougher, especially for trans folks. Um,
Yeah.
I'm probably, first of all, I'd recommend recoveringfromreligion.org, and I'd also recommend the Transatlantic Call-In Show, which airs here on Thursday. So you can talk to people
Okay.
whose experience is much closer to yours than mine is.
Yeah.
But I don't know if Promise's mic is working
Can you
now, and
hear
if
me
you have
now?
thoughts. Yes, we hear you.
Oh,
Ah,
So
Promise.
sorry, I'm
Ty
over
is,
here like trying to resolve the issue. I've got an ice pack on my computer. I think it might be working
Oh
now.
goodness.
Yeah, catch me
right.
up, Matt, from
Wow.
what I caught the little pieces here and there, but
Yeah,
what's the gist
so
of it?
Ty is just struggling with, they grew up in a religious community, and they're not religious now. They're also trans. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Ty, but a little bit of it seems to be like wishing you had been treated better once upon a time, and yet still lamenting the community that you no longer have.
It's not quite, because it's more like, I guess it's closer in proximity to that, because it's like my dad and my stepmom who took part in raising me, they're like evangelical Christian nationalists, the furthest right you could go without, Nazi saluting, basically. And for them, like, I don't know, they just instilled a lot of shame within me, I guess, growing up, and for little
Mm,
things too. And I'm just noticing echoes of that today in my life. Like dressing how I want, I
Ah,
still have so much anxiety going out because I'm afraid of like, Christian evangelicals doing a hate crime on me or something. And I guess I'm still reckoning with that fear. And part of the reason I wanted to call in was like, I'm just curious as to you two, I don't know, maybe cope with the echoes of like the shame that religious figures wanted to instill upon you, because clearly it's nonsensical and it's dogmatic and everything like that, but it's like
yeah,
a more
it still
primal
sticks
and
with you.
carnal experience. Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
totally
so
relate to
I'm
that.
not looking for. Yeah, thank you.
I think for me, what really helped um, was holding space for two different things. Number one, the justified anger and grief and frustration that I
Mhm.
felt toward the people that made me feel this way, towards the teachings that made me feel this way, toward my own self for accepting some of those things, but then holding space
Yeah.
for, okay, now who do I get to be? And the more I started turning attention to that part and finding the joy and excitement in figuring out, like, okay, who am I actually? Like, without these teachings, without that shame, what does that look like? Like, who am I without those things? And the more I turned my attention there, the more I prioritized finding kind of, I just call them like the joyful moments of discovering myself, sometimes rediscovering. Sometimes there were things that were always there. I just had to notice them. The less I cared so much about the other stuff. It just started to kind of melt away. And that's not to say that sometimes that stuff doesn't come up. Like, put me around my family long enough and I am triggered as hell. But
I hear that.
I am now able to, truly live life on my own terms because I have space for both of those things. So I don't feel like I'm fighting them anymore. I feel like they can cohabitate. And I'm sorry that sounds like so woo-woo probably. I hope some of it's coming across how I mean it.
I'm picking up what you're putting down. No, that all makes sense. And I think what you were saying there resonated with me because, like, something I've really been working on is just simply setting boundaries with these people who really want to, it's almost like a child excited to show me a drawing. They're like excited to tell me all the dogmatic things that they learned at church recently. And like, their pastor tells them something negative about trans people and they come to me and they're like, oh, wait, I know one of them. Like, let me share my little drawing that I made of trans people being sad. But sorry. But no, just like setting boundaries
so sorry.
is a really powerful tool. No, it's all good. I'm not alone in this experience, and it makes me feel nice to know that you two are out there helping to spread the good word. So much appreciated.
Boundaries are huge. Like, that is, I'm so proud of you for recognizing that and doing that, because that actually leaves more potential in relationships with people that are still stuck in evangelicalism or whatever it may be, because you're saying, look, if there's going to be relationship here, it's going to be without these things. And if you can meet me there, you can have the relationship. If you can't, then this isn't going to work. And kind of acknowledging that both of you have to grieve some things, because I'm sure there's all kinds of stuff that you would love to be excited with them about and share with them. Like you're saying, I like that example of like a picture and they're coming to you. And that's honestly amazing of you that you're able to recognize that it is kind of like this childlike, oh, let me just show you this thing, but it's causing harm to you. And so that's why, like you said, you have to set the boundaries. So I think that's great. I think you're doing an amazing job, and I'm just really proud of you that you're at the point that you are already.
You're going to make me cry. Thank you. That's so sweet. Thank you. Well, I've heard a lot about your two stories as well, and I just wanted to express my own pride in, being part of your audience, because you two are both braver than you know, and I'm sure everyone in the audience right now can agree that your work is much appreciated. So I appreciate you all taking my call, and maybe I'll call back another day and let y'all know what's going on. But stay strong out there, folks, and come to Vermont. It's a beautiful place.
I want to visit Vermont.
It's great.
I was just in Vermont like a month ago.
No way.
All right. Oh, sorry, Ty. I was in Newport. So
lovely caller, though. I loved that.
Yeah, let me kind of touch on this. First of all, part of me was just Dr. Daryl Ray was here because shame, particularly religious shame, in the arenas surrounding sex and sexuality and gender are something that Daryl's talked about quite a lot. That's why, in addition to recommending recoveringfromreligion.org, we also recommend seculartherapy.org. So you can find a therapist that is going to treat you with science-based secular treatments and not you need to get right with God or whatever. I fully recognize that I may be weird in this aspect. Nobody can shame me. It's not possible. I'm ashamed, and I'm going to put that in quotes because I'm going to make a distinction here. All on my own, in the colloquial sense, whenever I find that I'm truly guilty of something, whether I'm the one that catches me out or somebody else catches me out. When they catch me out for doing something wrong, they're not shaming me. They're offering me their corrective remarks. And then I am, in a kind of a normative sense, ashamed and regretful. And I feel guilty because I did something wrong. And if if someone is trying to shame me for something that I genuinely do not think is wrong, even if I did it, they can never shame me. I am immune to it. I genuinely don't care. And the shame that they attempt to do tends to come in around human sexuality and gender, things like that. Sins against God, sins against nature, sins against your parents. I'm not going to reveal any names, but I had a conversation yesterday with someone who just they found out 3 years ago that one of their kids is trans, and it did not go well. The kid's mom basically shut down a little bit. And then after a couple weeks, that the trans individual just cut all of them off. It's 3 years later, and they're talking to me out of the blue, and they're like, what can we do? And yet, in the entire conversation, they are constantly using their kid's dead name and prior pronouns. And I'm like, it's been 3 years. I know you haven't had any interaction with them, but I also feel like there's been little to no progress here. I'm sorry that your kid isn't the person you thought they were or wished they were, but I'm also not sorry, because I'm glad when someone finds out who they are, and then you either continue to love and interact with them for who they are on their terms, or you don't. And the person I was talking to was like, yeah, but your mom's different. You can't do this type of thing to your mom. And I'm like, why? My mom is either going to treat me and my partner, my friends, with respect, or she can fuck off. I don't care that we're blood relatives. I care about actual relationships. The fact that we are near kin biologically is something I have no say in. Now, don't get me wrong. I love my parents. I love my mom. I'm happy to interact with them, but there's limits, and I get it. I'm probably weird in that sense that I'm able to draw boundaries where I know who I am. I'm going to be me. I've taken an inventory of my life. I know where I'm at. I know the things I fucked up. I fucked up right before the show, and even sat here, and it's a mild thing. It has to do with our animals. I was supposed to have done something, and I got around to it late. And part of me is tempted to, just tell Arden you did it earlier. But I won't lie to her about something so trivial. It's, no, I fucked up and I waited till the last damn minute and I got it done, but at least I got it done. And yes, I will do better next time. That sort of inventory on yourself, at least for me, makes me immune to someone else trying to shame me. And you can't shame, you can't shame someone for being left-handed, for being gay, for being trans, for needing glasses, for being a diabetic, for being slow to wake up, for needing a cup of coffee, for having sex with someone that you don't like, for saying words you're not fond of. You can try to shame them all, and you will have success, but you'll have success only with the people who've been conditioned to value your impression of them over their thoughts about themselves. And I no longer fit that category. And I wish other people could, but I might also just be broken.
No, I think it's good. It reminds me, is it Eleanor Roosevelt? She said, no one can make you feel inferior without your consent. Which is,
yes,
I think, close to what you're saying. You get to decide how much weight that person's perspective of you can carry. And sometimes that's a process for people. It took me a little bit longer, but it feels really good when your own opinion of yourself matters more than anyone else's. And that doesn't mean that other people can't have some impact on that in a positive way. Like I deeply care what my partner thinks about my character because he knows me. But some person whose values don't align with mine, I don't give a shit if they don't like me or if they don't like something about me. And that was something that I had to learn outside of religion, because religion teaches you the opposite, that you're supposed to give respect and honor and all of this stuff just because a person is, in leadership or is your blood relative or is older than you or whatever it may be. And instead of teaching, just some basic thinking skills of, is this somebody that should hold weight in my life or not?
So we've got a theist caller, and we will always move theists to the top of the line, the top of the queue, the front of the queue, the head of the line.
It's me.
Still pronouns he, they. Says he has pretty cool evidence for gods.
Yes,
So, hey, Robert, how are you?
I'm pretty nervous, but yes, I'm calling here in call so I can. What I can do is a little thought experiment. Do you two have pets?
Do we have what?
Pets, like dog or something.
I'm sorry, your audio is breaking up. Did you say text?
Do you have pets?
I have hundreds of animals in my house. Yes, I have pets.
Yes.
I do not have pets.
And you probably notice that these animals aren't very smart, are they?
I'm sorry, one more time?
Verdammt nochmal. Animals probably aren't very smart, are they? Not smarter than you, I mean.
I don't think any of my pets are smarter than me, but they're still pretty smart.
It's not smarter than me, but you, as a human, are as a species, was on a plane, intelligence and immune system device above the animal, and so it's not hard to think that there would be a species above us, like
no,
above us that would be the God.
Robert, what I understand you saying is, I'm more intelligent and have a better immune system, I thought I heard you say, than my pets. Is it that unreasonable to think that there's someone who's smarter than us?
Yes.
I don't necessarily know that it's unreasonable to think there's someone smarter than us, but that doesn't mean that there's a God. Just like the fact that I can run a certain speed and Usain Bolt can run faster, that doesn't mean that someone can run as fast as the Flash.
But I never thought of that.
Okay, where's the evidence for gods?
Probability. The universe is pretty big.
I'm sorry, I'm having problems understanding you, Robert.
And the universe is pretty big.
The universe is pretty big.
It's only
yes.
basic statistic that probably there are multiple gods, because this the concept of one God is pretty.
How would you define God? Because you seem to be saying that just because the universe is big, there's probably many gods. Okay, never mind. What does God mean to you?
It's a species.
God is a species?
It's an advanced civilization.
Okay, we're going to let you go now, Robert. Thanks for calling.
Okay.
So.
Well, that was a call.
Yeah. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. God is a species, and as long as we have a big universe, there's probably many gods. And because we're smarter than our pets, there's probably a God that is smarter than us. I remain unconvinced, but I'm wondering if someone can do better. I don't want to beat up on Robert because, there was a language barrier at least, and some bad tech on the phone. But
yeah,
before we get to the next caller, this is something that, I remember thinking about. And now, generally, what we define as gods in the broad sense of the gods of classical theism and things like that, these are things that aren't constrained by the universe. So it doesn't matter how big the universe is, or if there's a universe or not. Generally speaking, gods aren't constrained by the universe. But if you just mean that there's some alien out there that's way more advanced than us, if it doesn't interact with us in any detectable way, its existence, from my perspective, is indistinguishable from something that doesn't exist. And this is true whether it's a god or an alien. If I don't have any way to detect it and interact with it, its existence and its non-existence are on equal footing. And why is the universe so big? Like, if you look at, for example, Christianity, God created everything. God created the heavens and the earth, and he created man. And man is a special creation above all of the other animals, which is why he has man name all of the other animals, which is bizarre because no person, even if they were naming one a second and lived for 900 plus years, could name every animal. Yeah. Oh, but no, maybe it's just bird and then all the birds and mammal. Maybe you could name them all in 5 minutes if you just went with, categories or something. But God has not just a special person or a special group of animals, but a special group within that group, as long as you're going with the Jewish tradition of the Jews are God's chosen people. And so he creates this whole universe that is robust, that follows the laws of physics, that is beautiful, and largely completely inhospitable to us. And yet we're the reason all of that exists. I mean, Tracy Harris likened it to a Rube Goldberg experiment or a design where, you want to flip a light switch. And so you create this monstrous contraption in your room so that when you walk in, A goes to B, it's C, all the way around the room, and then boom, a light switch comes on. This is the bizarreness of saying there's a God that created all this just for us. And if you say, okay, there's probably other life out there and some of those are gods, you still have no justification for that either. I mean, what if every civilization reaches this point and then dies out because they don't address climate change or they nuke themselves? They harness, they develop AI to the point where there's no truth anymore, and their only option is to shut down technology entirely and go back to less advanced ways of living in order to even survive. Maybe that's a possibility. There's something called the Drake equation where they factor in the likelihood of life and then the likelihood of intelligent life and then the likelihood of intelligent life continuing on to where it can communicate and potentially have interstellar travel and things like that. And that tells us how many civilizations like that might be out in the universe at some point, but still one of them had to be first. And how do you know we're not the first? But if you're looking from Christianity's standpoint, that seems a lot of space to waste just so that you and I can sit here and argue about whether or not we need to believe in Jesus in order to go on to a special world after this universe is no longer for us. But, all right. Well, Anne is calling from California. Anne's an atheist who thinks they may have had a supernatural experience. Hey, Anne, how are you? You're on with Promise and Matt.
Hello, Matt and Promise. How are you both today?
Good, thank you.
I'm a fuck up just like every other day. But...
Me too. The reason why I'm calling is because I think I may have had a supernatural experience, and I don't believe in any gods, and I really don't believe in the supernatural, so I hope that I'm wrong and that there was something going on in my head at the time. So just to start out, June of 2014 was the worst month of my life. It started out with domestic violence, suicide attempt, then 5150, then some time in a battered women's shelter. And then at the end of that month, my father died. And the experience happened that night of the day that my father died. I went back home. I was all alone. And yes, admittedly, I was smoking weed. I had smoked weed a lot, and I never had an experience before or since. But I was sitting on the couch and I was just thinking about stuff, and I had smoked a little, and I kind of felt like a presence next to me, and I kind of thought I heard like the couch cushions move, like when someone's scooting closer to you. And then like maybe like not physically, like if someone really does put their arm around you, but like an energy or something of someone putting their arm around me, and it felt like an older man. And then
What's an older man feel
and then it
like?
was gone. Huh?
What's an older man feel like?
Well, I mean, it's just the presence felt like it was an older man, like it wasn't a woman or a child
Y-
or anything like that.
Yeah, I don't know what that
So,
means, but I'm
okay. Yeah. But then I thought, was that just my dad saying goodbye? But then I thought, well, maybe, okay, yeah, I was high and maybe I was under a lot of duress, and I don't know if it's common to hallucinate like that, if it was a hallucination, which I'm hoping it was.
Yeah, and
so,
first of all, I'm so sorry for what you experienced, and that sounds truly like a terrible time in your life. And I hope things are better for you now. But I will say, it actually
Yes,
is
they are.
very common to have experiences like that when you're grieving, um, and that combined with the fact that you were under the influence of something, to me, it makes total sense that your brain helped create this moment for you to try to bring some sense of peace, or nothing about that sounds like evidence of something supernatural. It sounds very human to me, actually. I don't know what Matt will have to say about it, but to me, that I've heard this story from so many people that had very similar circumstances, especially with grief. You want to believe certain things, you want to feel like you have some closure and stuff. So that makes sense to me.
Okay. Thank you.
so you had some experience.
Yeah.
Why would you even suspect that it was supernatural in origin?
It just kind of felt like it was outside of my mind more than inside of my mind. I mean, I've been high before, and like I'll see really cool things that are in my mind, but I know it's all in my mind. And this kind of felt almost, I don't believe in ghosts, but I guess, kind of ghostly-ish but it couldn't have been a ghost because
Why not?
well, I don't, well, I don't, well, I don't really believe in them, and I kind of hope there aren't
That
any, because
doesn't.
that kind of means that when you're dead, you're roaming around forever and ever.
Yeah, but I mean,
But that's
you're like,
just a feeling, yeah.
oh, it can't be a ghost, and I'm like, why not? I don't know whether it can be a ghost or not. I don't see. I think the soul is the most obviously false position in any religion. It doesn't make any sense, and there is zero evidence to suggest that it's a real thing or possible. But I can't say that it's impossible. But this ineffable feeling of, ooh, I'm having an experience, and it doesn't feel like my brain. It feels like it's coming from outside my brain. Isn't that your brain telling you that it's outside your brain?
Yes, that could very possibly be true, yes.
So how can you tell whether or not it's coming from your brain or outside your brain?
It just, it felt, it just felt like someone was in the room with me.
I know what I
I
asked was, how
really,
can
I
you
wish I could
tell?
explain it.
What I asked is, how can you tell whether it's in your brain or not in your brain?
Well, I guess in that instance, it I couldn't really tell.
Okay.
I couldn't tell
So
for sure.
you couldn't tell at all, not for sure. You couldn't tell
Yeah.
at all.
Okay.
So if you can't tell, then what conclusion should you be reaching?
That it was in my mind.
No,
No.
You shouldn't reach that conclusion, and you shouldn't reach the opposite conclusion. You do not have enough information to reach a conclusion about what it was or even what it likely was. The only thing we can say with confidence is that the available evidence suggests that things like this are a part of human psychology, and there is no reason to think that it comes from beyond the human mind, but we cannot rule that out. The answer is, the conclusion you should reach is, I don't know what the hell that was.
Yeah, I guess I get hung up on being like sure about things.
What are you sure about?
Yeah.
Because I'm not absolutely certain of anything, but I'm strongly confident of some things.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I guess that's just a personality flaw with me. Like I always have to have certainty.
What do you think you have certainty about?
That well, right now that I'm alive and I'm having a conversation with you.
Are you? How do you know that? How do you know you're not a brain in a vat being fed information?
Well, I guess I really don't know.
There you go. This is why Rene Descartes' cogito ergo sum was basically, I think, therefore I am. And that suggests that even if everything I experience is a deception, there must still be a me that is being deceived, either by me or by someone else. And I have no way of knowing which of those is true. And Hobbes pointed out that that's based on the primacy of reason, but it's fine. The issue here is you really want to be sure. And you better get used to not being sure, because as far as I can tell, you can't be sure about anything, including whether the reality you experience is actually real. So, but that said, there are varying degrees of confidence within the reality you experience. You have good reason to think that you are having a conversation with me and Promise right now. Whether or not it's part of the matrix or whatever, it doesn't matter. You can be strongly confident, but not absolutely certain that we're having this conversation. And that's the way we operate. And as soon as you start to get comfortable with that, it'll be easier, not more easier. It'll be easier to say, hey, I had an experience, but I don't know what it is. And I can't be reaching conclusions about it. But I'll file it away. And if there is ever some way to explore that, then we'll do it. And if I'm prevented forever from exploring it, then there's nothing else I can do. Like, I don't have a time machine. I can't go back and evaluate things that happened in the past. I can only wait and see if those same or similar things happen again and what we learn about them. And this is where we get all the way back to where Promise was, when Promise was completely right, that we understand within the reality we experience that people dealing with grief seem to be able to create constructs and coping mechanisms that take on a variety of perceived forms, whether it's a ghost or an impression of a ghost or a memory of something or someone communicating with you in your head or audibly. We know all of these things are things that brains can do with no supernatural. Well, we have no reason to think that there's anything supernatural adding to it, but we know that brains can do it. And so if I lost a parent and smoked a bowl, I don't think that I would be making any conclusions about what I felt or experienced in that time frame, unless it was independently verifiable by somebody else. And it's almost, we can be strongly confident that if we know anything at all, this is almost an obvious argument for, wow, our brains do really cool and weird stuff when we're grieving and in pain and in trauma. And this is, you could see where this could lead someone to having a mental break where they might need to be institutionalized. And one of the things is that you are one of the fortunate few who, when you experience something like this, don't necessarily suffer a mental break. you have a secondary set, and I'm not a psychologist. I wish one of were here, but you have a secondary set of coping mechanisms. And to me, I use the analogy of mirror neurons. I definitely recommend everybody go learn about mirror neurons. They're really cool. And it's like when somebody gets punched in the face and you see that, your brain processes that input as if it were happening to you, which is kind of why we wince a little bit, when somebody gets kicked in the junk or knocked out or whatever, or they fall. There's a feedback circuit in your brain that says, hey, that's not you. And that's why you don't feel the full effect of the pain. And so there's a really cool experiment you can do by putting a fake arm down on the table, moving your actual arm over behind a wall where you can't see it, putting up a barrier so that you can't see your wall. Then you hit the fake hand with a hammer and you'll feel it in every practical sense about how the brain is so cool. And so before we should go leaping to, I saw a ghost or there's something supernatural, it's, wow, aren't brains cool? We should look into this some more. Anyway, that's a really long answer to how do I know it wasn't a ghost? I don't.
Well, that's giving me a lot to think about. So.
Cool. Well, thanks, Ann. We got some theists lining up, and we wish you well.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, Ann.
All right. We have John calling from Maryland. Pronouns are he, him. John's a theist that wants to present a form of evidence for God. So, hey, John, which God are we talking about, and how are you? And you can do those in the opposite order if you want.
Okay. Hey, Matt. I'm doing well. And how are you doing?
I'm all right.
Okay.
What do you got?
I just called to ramble on a few minutes about a few things.
Well, I thought you were going to present evidence for God. That's not rambling. That seems kind of important.
Yeah, which God,
Okay.
I think, was Matt's first question.
Christian God.
Cool.
Okay. We're all ears.
Okay. Well, I don't know. I have an experience, let's see, maybe 40 years, kind of looking into some different things, because I kind of felt a lot like, say, a lot of people, maybe like you would. Very hard to believe these things. And so anyhow, I started kind of, looking into the Bible, looking into some different things. And anyhow, it turns out that what I found is there is like a form of evidence that, say, man has been here a lot longer than the 6,000 years.
I'm sorry. You're saying you have evidence that man has been here longer than 6,000 years. I completely agree. It's called science.
Yes, and I think science would can be used to, say, support Christianity in that way. What I would say is it's kind of like a perception, like you look at the Bible, you see all these stories, it kind of talks like angels, and there's some silly things like the donkey talking, things like this, right? Doesn't really make a lot of sense. But like there's a way to look at the Bible, like in a picture almost. You have to see the picture.
But
And
John, we're more interested in if you actually have evidence that that a God exists, not how you look at the Bible versus how I look at the Bible versus how a billion other people look at the Bible. I'm more interested in if you have any evidence for the existence of this God.
Yeah. Okay. Well, yes, evidence. Okay. Well, let's see. Okay, I'll read something to you.
I
Okay.
kind of
really
prefer.
Here's a verse.
want you to read something to
I'm
us.
sorry. I'm sorry. Here's a verse. I'm sorry, Matt. Okay.
No, hang
Okay.
on.
And
We don't need a
yes,
Bible
sir.
verse, John. We both have read the Bible many times over,
No,
and
no.
we need.
Yes, I know you have,
Okay,
but
okay. Let's
this is a
hear
little
what if
different.
this is evidence.
No, okay. Well, it's going to lead to a form of evidence. Okay. Okay. So what it says in Ecclesiastes, it says there is no remembrance of the former things, right? Neither
I
shall
don't
there be
care.
any.
I don't care. I don't care what Ecclesiastes says until you give me a reason to care what Ecclesiastes says. And Ecclesiastes was written by a non-believer.
Okay, but I'm just going to read. That's what I'm saying. I just need to read this verse. So
No, you
there's
don't.
let's just.
No, you don't.
There's no
John.
remembrance of the
No,
former.
no,
Oh, okay.
John, you don't need to read
Okay.
any fucking Bible verses. There are no Bible verses that contain evidence in any form for any God. I need you to present evidence for the Christian God. That's all we cared about.
Okay. Well, it's not. First of all, there is no way to say prove anything, right? Okay. You have to look at what you think has happened in history.
John, I'm going to mute you for a second, and my apologies. There's a delay, and you probably haven't done this before, and I've done it for 20 years. So let's be clear. I don't need you to tell me that there's no way to prove anything. We didn't ask you to prove anything. There's a context in which proof only applies to mathematics, but there's also a colloquial context in which proof is a rational evidence-based demonstration of the fact of something. So you called in to said you want to present a form of evidence for God. We asked which God, we got to the Christian God. When we ask you for the evidence, we don't need you to say, well, there's no way to prove anything, or I need to read a Bible verse, or this. We need you to present the evidence that you said you can present. Otherwise, you are being disrespectful to us, the viewers, and everybody else who's on hold who would like to present their evidence. So I'm going to unmute you now. John, please present the evidence for the God.
Okay. Do you believe that there's a higher intelligence of life and say out there somewhere in the universe?
John.
No, like say,
okay.
No. Okay,
John,
wait a minute.
John, I'm gonna mute you, and I need you to listen to me again because I'm doing everything I can to not lose my shit at how dishonest theists are every fucking time. When I say I need you to present the evidence, you don't need to ask me a question at all. You don't need to ask me, do I believe there's a higher what? No, nothing I believe is relevant at all to whether or not you have evidence for God. So once again, I'm going to unmute you. You don't need to read me a Bible verse. You don't need to lecture me on epistemology. You don't need to ask me what my opinion is on anything because all of my opinions are irrelevant to whether or not you have evidence for God. The only thing you need to do, and it's the only thing I'm going to let you do, is present evidence for your God. And if you fail to do it, I will hang up and we will move on. So present the evidence for your God.
Okay, well, before I present the evidence, can I say?
Nope. I'm a man of my word. And while I am thrilled to get people to actually call in and defend, if I have hand walked you up to where I've written most of your fucking term paper for you, and all you have to do is sign your name and fill out one little thing at the bottom, and you just want to do just one more thing, you are not ready for this show or any other probably, but feel free to call another one. All right. Here we go. Moises. I think it's Moises. Is it Moses or Moises? He from California is a theist, wants to explain why God is real. Hey, Moises, how are you?
I'm pretty all right. I hope I'm not wasting you guys' time because my definition of God is basically the universe. And I also wanted to
okay, then you're not. Then you are wasting my time. Then you are wasting my time, Moises, because I already believe the universe exists. You don't need to convince me the universe exists.
Just okay. Well, can I mention the other thing that a previous caller has mentioned to you before, and I just want to fill in
No.
what he was trying to say?
No. How do you know what somebody else was trying to say? Can you read minds?
No, I don't.
No, you don't. And now I'm going to mute you. See, here's the thing. If your idea of God is the universe, I already believe the universe exists, so there's nothing to talk about except for, why do you count universe as God? What does adding the God label to the universe get us? And in what way is it true? I don't need you to think that you can read people's minds or tell us what somebody else said, especially if I hung up on them. So let's try this. Why should we consider the universe God? And what does the God label add to the universe?
Well, I believe because it's so true. And why should...
Okay, I'm going to mute you. It's clear that you're not even fucking trying. And it's really annoying, but I'm maintaining my zen. Because I didn't ask you why you believed. I asked you, what does adding the word God to universe give us? And I also asked, why should we consider the universe to be God? Are you able to answer those two questions?
I don't know if I can, but I think it just
Okay.
gets rid of...
Then we'll just let you go, and you can call back when you are able to do it. This is so frustrating.
Yeah. And generally, if you can't just answer the questions as they come, it feels like you don't know what you're talking about, or you don't have a good reason for it. If you talk to an expert in something, or somebody who really believes something, they have answers to give you. If I ask my husband on the piano, like, oh, what note is this? Or how does this sound when you play this? He can give me answers, and he's not sitting there like, well, I'm sure next you're going to ask me about this. And well, it's because if I play, he's not like on the defense. He's just answering stuff. And it would be so nice to talk to a theist that would just answer stuff. Honestly.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I'm glad that there's people calling in, but maybe y'all need to realize this. Because it's a live show, because we're on the internet, I don't know if you know this, but there's a lot of dishonest people in this world. And some of them will call in and pretend to be defending a God they believe in when they really don't. And sometimes we find them out. But at the end of the day, if you're calling in to not actually defend a belief, then we're just going to move on. I'm not looking for new friends. I'm not looking to be somebody's counselor or therapist. I am not here to give people a platform for their incoherent ramblings that aren't relevant. If you think the universe is God, fine. You need to be able to say, here's why I add the God label to the universe. Here's what I think it adds to it. Otherwise, why not just call it universe? And here's why it's important that people believe this. If you haven't addressed those two basic questions, you are still preschool when it comes to defending a God belief. I don't care about bong rip theology of, hey, I smoked a bowl and I thought, wait a minute, what if hey, hear me out, promise. What if like the universe is God, but not as like a being, but as like us. Like we are the universe's way of knowing itself. And because we all think and we have similar thoughts, maybe we're a hive mind, and that's what the universe really, oh my gosh. If your God doesn't interact with reality in some sort of detectable fashion, it's useless. If we don't have a way to tell the difference between whether your God exists or not, it's useless. If it doesn't matter whether or not we are convinced that your God exists, it's useless. But what's even worse is if you think there is a God that isn't useless, and when you call in to offer a defense. You present no defense or argument. You just want to read a Bible verse or talk about how you feel. Your arguments are the ones that are useless. And if there was a God, it should be embarrassed that its defenders are so fucking bad at this, like terrible. Like when you go find out, hey, ask Forrest sometime, how do we know evolution actually happened? And explain to me what a scientific model is and the principles of testability and falsifiability, and how we can use the fusing of chromosome 2 to show that humans are in fact still great apes and related to those great apes. All of those, none of those things would be, ooh, let me read you a verse from my favorite book. Let me tell you how I feel. Let me describe the metaphor. It's been privately revealed to me that humans are still great apes. Well, I had an impression that, I get it. I'm paraphrasing something that Dawkins wrote years ago, and one of the many good things that he wrote. I'm from where we sit, it's very difficult to tell the difference between someone who is intentionally calling to waste our time and someone who is unintentionally calling to waste our time. And so what I plan to do from here on out for the show, for today at least, and maybe more, is Promise and I will try to get some sort of answer that we can then have a conversation about. And if we can't, we'll just let you know that we're going to let you go off, think about what was said, think about the questions, write down, do some homework. We did. Write down the questions and then come up with good answers for them and call us back. You will become one of our favorite callers of all time if you just took notes on the questions we asked, thought about it, and called back in with answers. But you know how many people in 20 years bother to do that? A handful of people. What's stopping you? Why don't you care that your religion is being so poorly represented? And why doesn't God care? If I was God and I saw the parade of clueless clusterfuck arguments that we've dealt with here for 20 years, I would be coming down and sitting at least those people down saying, hey, you know I'm real. We shouldn't have to go through this. You're doing a bad job of representing me publicly. I'm not going to go do this. You're going to learn how to do this better so that you can help people find their way to me. That's your job. I don't know. All right, let's try again. Greg in Michigan is calling, pronouns are him. He's a theist who wants to prove the existence of God using absolutes. Hey, Greg, how are you?
Good afternoon, Matt and Promise. Hopefully you'll extend some comedy to me. I just want you to be didactic. There's a lot of great things that you say and that I'd like to understand. And within my query, you would elucidate to me and the listening audience about the evidence for God. You talk about, Matt, absolutely.
I'm going to mute you. I know what all those words meant. I don't know if you think that your peculiar manner of talking makes you seem better versed in this stuff, but it doesn't. So I need you to tell us which God we're talking about and then the reason to believe. So which God are we talking
real
about?
quick, can I just add, when we start with preambles like this, I automatically start thinking, where is this call going to go? Because we're just asking what God you believe in and why, like for the evidence. So when you have to start with like a whole preamble, it already feels not genuine. So just saying that for future callers, let's, get to the call. Let's get to the point. Let's hear the evidence.
Which God are we talking
about? Here's the thing. Because we don't have as much knowledge as either you or
Matt. Which God are we talking about?
Oh, the Christian God.
Okay, thank you.
you talk about certainty, and you talk about that man cannot absolutely know
So, Greg,
100%. Yeah.
do you have
Yeah.
evidence for the Christian God's existence or not?
Very good, very good. I do apologize. Mr. Positive loves you guys, and just keep on being you. I apologize.
Hey, Greg,
Yeah.
didn't I tell you
I
just
wanted
the
to
other
ask you
day?
a lot.
Didn't I tell you just the other day to never fucking call me again with this shit?
Well, I wanted to ask you questions.
Didn't I
this
tell
is the only
you?
way to get
Didn't
a
I
hold of
tell
you.
you? Didn't I tell you
Yes,
just
sir,
the other
you
day to
did.
never? Yes, I did. And do you know what's
Yes, you
happening
did.
right now?
I know you're going to hang up, but it was just something for didactic purposes. That's why I wanted to learn.
No, what's happening right now is that I'm not only going to block your phone number,
Okay.
so that you can never call this show again,
Yes,
but
sir.
I'm probably going to call you later, and we're going to have a conversation, if you'd like, offline, so that we can figure out what the fuck your problem is. Would you like that?
I would. I mean,
Cool.
it just.
Goodbye. Block that number.
Is this a previous caller, I guess?
Yes, this is.
And-
So Mr. Positive is an individual. You can go back and watch the clip from the other day. It's good that you ask, and it's good that we explain this. This was not a random call. This was not the first time we've dealt with this individual. I've been dealing with this individual for a long time. They are not equipped for these conversations. And we've been down this road many times, and I've tried to avoid just outright banning, but literally they called just the other day. And we went down this path, and I was like, don't call me again with this stuff. And at this point, to do that right at all I need to know is, which God are we talking about? Okay, the Christian God. Thank you. That was great. Do you have evidence? Okay, well, that's interesting, or that's a good question, or that's, you fucking knew before any of this. You called in to present your evidence. You knew what we were going to ask. We've asked it over and over again. At this point, I may call you after the show is over so that I can add your phone number to my block list on my phone so that you can never message me in any way, shape, or form. It is bizarre to me, the parade of bullshit messages that I got privately and then the calls. So, all right, here we go. Let's get back. Kevin is calling from California. It says Kevin is spiritual in answer to the whether that Kevin's a theist or not. So we'll have to find out. Pronouns are him, but wants to respond to the prayer from earlier to give evidence for God. So, hey, Kevin, how are you?
Hi, good. How are you?
I'm all right. Which God are we talking about?
I would say the God. I'm not comfortable sort of minimizing him into the Christian or Jewish. It's sort of a total thing.
What are this God's properties?
He is specific. Yeah, it's not a universe kind of thing. And I do believe that
is it a thinking agent? Is it a thinking agent that has desires?
Yes, it is.
Is it powerful? Is it powerful enough to create a universe?
I don't know that I would say that sort of the space of the universe is his creation. But
How
that
would you
he
know?
is this is the in my search for truth, right? This is sort of how the evidence has led me. It's sort of like how Isaiah says that, like, have you not heard?
Kevin,
you don't want to hear?
Kevin.
Okay. Yep.
Kevin, so you believe that there's a personal God, right?
Yes.
Then why, when asked if you were a theist, did you decide to say spiritual instead?
Because it's not in the, Christian. I believe in the reincarnation. I believe
Kevin.
Yeah.
What does the word theist mean?
Believe, theist. does that mean specifically believing in one God? I'm not even entirely sure.
Do you believe in one
Just
God?
No, I believe in, like, that there are sons of God, right? I'm sure you're well aware, right? The sons of God descend, like that there is a Elohim, right? That there is a
okay.
Anunnaki,
Kevin,
Yeah.
in the interest of fairness, I'm going to shut up now because I've been doing all the talking because it's a parade of absolute nonsense. The issue here is
I heard
that
some silly
a
things.
theist,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, please stop talking. I don't want to have to mute you. I'm going to explain why I'm done talking, but I want Promise to try this because I have failed. The word theist is applied to anyone who is convinced that a God exists. You are clearly convinced that a God exists. You haven't necessarily told us, but much about that God, other than that there are maybe sons of God and you believe in all kinds of stuff. We're interested does it matter to that God whether Promise and I are convinced that it's real?
I would not presume to know.
Are there consequences for us?
Yes. So I just want to be careful. You would not want me to quote a scripture. Is that right?
I asked a question.
I think,
are there consequences for us if we don't believe?
Yes, but I wouldn't necessarily say that it's in this moment, right? There may be revelation over time.
Okay, so you do do you think, Kevin, do you think that Matt and I should believe that a God exists?
Well, I don't think I want to. Answering
Kevin.
Matt.
Kevin. This is like a very simple question. Do you think that Matt and I should believe what you believe about gods?
Yes, but I would not expect you to believe it until you
I didn't
have,
ask. Kevin. So Kevin, I'm willing to keep talking to you, but we're gonna have to stick to the question that I'm asking, because you're gonna end up getting yourself in trouble with stuff I'm not even asking you. So all I asked was if you think that Matt and I should believe in the gods that you believe in. Now we can move on to another question. But if you keep assuming what I'm going to say next and keep trying to, cover your tracks instead of just stay on topic, we're just going to have to end the call. So, okay. So you think that this God is
right?
So do you think that there is a good reason for Matt and I to believe that this God that you believe in exists?
Yes.
Cool. What is the good reason?
The good reason is the truth that is evident, right? And what is this truth?
What's
that
the
is
evidence?
Evident? It is.
So what is the evidence, Kevin?
Right? It is the accumulation of scripture, right? It is all the evidence of history, right? The only God who would be worth calling God would be made evident from the reality of history, right?
Okay, those are words. I'm still not hearing the evidence. So what is the evidence for the existence of this God? You're telling me that there's scripture. Okay, that means nothing to me. I don't know why that scripture you can read all kinds of things to me. I need to know, what is the evidence that this God exists? History accumulating as it does is not evidence of a God.
Yes, but it is a specific history, right? And it's, when we're talking about the God and people say they're talking about the Christian God or some other God, right? That has meaning to us because of the revelations I'm talking about, right? Because of someone like Jesus.
But Kevin, you haven't shared any of the revelations or any of the evidence. So what is the evidence that this God exists?
Well, right. The evidence is, I'm trying, but right, it does include quoting scripture because we're talking about a God
Can
who
I let
has.
you know why?
And
So, Kevin, can I tell you why quoting scripture is absolutely meaningless when it comes to evidence for something?
sure.
Because anybody can call with any kind of religious scripture and read it to us. And Matt and I have zero reason to care what it says. Now, if you present evidence that a God exists and then can somehow link it to that text and offer evidence that that God inspired that text, well, then it becomes interesting to me. But we have to, you're starting with scripture when I need you to start with evidence that there's a God at all. If you think that scripture makes some good point about there being a God, you should just be able to say it to me. What is the evidence? What is the evidence that a God exists?
Well, sorry, I'm a little confused because right, could I quote some scripture to provide evidence? Or are you saying that scripture cannot be evidence?
It will not be evidence. It isn't evidence. Scripture is a claim. I need evidence that what it is saying matters at all or is true. Which verse is it that you're so keen to quote?
Well, it's certainly a kind of like a network of meaning, but I guess
Kevin, that was a really simple question. Which verse is it that you're wanting to read?
Okay, I can point to one. Yeah.
Kevin,
can you just reference the verse,
hang on,
please?
my apologies. Kevin, Promise has just expressly asked you twice, what verse do you want to reference? This is your chance to tell us which verse, don't say a word, which verse you want to reference. You are on my last fucking nerve, full on reminder. What verse do you want to reference? Go.
It is the verse where Jesus is being held by the Romans.
Go.
Kevin, do you know how to reference the Bible? which chapter and verse?
No, I'm sorry, I don't recall the exact chapter and verse, but I figured if
I'm going to recommend. I'm going to
problem.
recommend that you know the material. If your best evidence right now, if I'm asking you for evidence and it's a piece of scripture and you cannot even reference so that I can know, I could go look it up in my own Bible right now, and you cannot even give me that piece of information, I'm sorry, but you've failed at providing us any reason to believe what you believe, and you've not even answered any of our very simple questions. It feels extremely dishonest.
Yeah, you've only provided us with confirmation that you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. You aren't honest in conversation. Your conversation is not worth anybody's time. How does that feel?
That's a lot to gather from this short interaction.
Yeah, it is, because we're doing a show here where there's thousands of people watching right now, and hundreds of thousands will see this over the course of the time that it's here. And all we're asking is, can you tell us what you believe and why you believe it, why you think we should believe it? And you can't do any of that, and yet felt comfortable calling in and then wanted to reference a verse, but you don't know the verse. There's no verse that provides evidence for the existence of a God. And your thing about gods isn't consistent with the Bible in the first place. Because even though I'm not a biblical scholar, I clearly know it better than you ever have. And you can't be bothered. You are wasting everybody's time. What did you think was going to happen when you called in? And what questions did you think we were going to ask you?
Well, I guess I was kind of hoping to be able to, like I was saying, that I believe the Elohim and the Anunnaki.
You don't even know. No, you're not just going to ramble shit like that. What did you think we were going to ask you?
I guess it's the same thing. I would hope that, right, the reality that
what did you think? Okay. This is the last time. What question did you think we were going to ask you?
for evidence of
Cool.
God.
Why didn't you have an answer ready for that question that you thought we were going to ask you?
I was beginning to answer, but
No,
I was
Kevin, I swear to your bullshit God and your weak ass concepts. This is the last time I'm asking you. Why did you not have an answer prepared for the question you knew we were going to ask? Because we ask every fucking buddy before you called in.
I did.
What is your answer to the question? What evidence do you have for God? Go.
The evidence is right. It's a lot, right? Because it's over the.
I'm going to mute you because Kevin, at this point, I think you're full of shit. I think you think we're stupid. Well, the evidence is, well, it's a lot. You're full of shit, Kevin. You're either a liar or you are too bad at this to engage further. Don't call again until you can say the evidence is, and then present the evidence. It doesn't need to be followed by, well, it's a lot. You know what? I don't care if it's a lot or a little. I'd just like to get to what the fuck it is, but you're a time waster.
Right.
So I'm gonna give you one final chance in case Promise can maybe get you to answer. What is the evidence for your God? Last chance.
El is the God who is named in the Old Testament.
Kevin.
Oh man, this is not evidence, Kevin.
Kevin doesn't know what evidence is, or Kevin doesn't care, and so I don't care. Goodbye, Kevin.
Yeah, I think Kevin just wanted to preach, and having what you consider to be cool stories or emotional ways to describe things or mysteries, that is not evidence or reason to believe something. And what's so wild to me is that when I gave you the opportunity to cite what verse it was, because Matt and I both know the Bible, so if you can just tell me what verse you're referencing, that would help you out, because I would know then what point you're maybe trying to get at, and you couldn't even tell me that. It's very difficult to believe that Kevin believes whatever it is they were saying they do, because
yeah, I don't need a lecture on what the
please
Bible
know
says
the Bible
about,
verse.
yeah, if you don't know what the Bible verse is that you'd like to reference, I definitely don't need you to call in to tell me that El is the God of blah blah blah.
Right.
Yeah, I don't need a Bible lecture from someone who hasn't read it and doesn't know it. But matter of fact, I don't need a Bible lecture from people who have read it and know it, but that's another thing.
Yeah.
I'm going to apologize in advance to both you and this caller. Frank in Florida, pronouns are he, him, says nobody can provide evidence for God, so it's ridiculous to ask for evidence. Frank, how do you know that nobody can provide evidence for God?
Do you actually really think they would have to bring God himself if he
I'm sorry, Frank. You are asserting that nobody can provide evidence for the existence of God, and I just asked you how you know that nobody can provide evidence for the existence of God.
Because they would have to bring God themselves.
No, I'm going to mute you. Listen very closely, Frank. The reason we do this is because if they have evidence, I'd like to know it. And if they don't, I'd like them to know it. But what you're advocating is unreasonable, fallacious. It is not consistent with skepticism. You are asserting that no one can provide evidence for the existence of God. And when I ask you how you know that, you say, because they would have to produce God. No, they fucking wouldn't, Frank. It is necessarily the case that there may be gods that someone could present evidence for. And when you say nobody can, you are just demonstrating your own closed-mindedness. So for the last time, how do you know that nobody can present evidence for a God?
Because you have an argument for everything that everybody says.
Goodbye, Frank. Stop wasting our time.
Wait, stop.
Nope.
Oh, wow.
So I'll do this. I beat up on the theists and how bad they are at this. But there's a load of self-professed agnostics that are dipshits in the extreme who don't understand the foundations of epistemology, that don't understand skepticism. And they're like, oh, there is no God. Nobody can present God. It's silly for you guys to be asking for evidence. No, what it is it shows that we are open-minded and that we give a shit about whether or not other people have good reasons for their beliefs. So while Frank can sit there on his smug little fucking agnostic high horse and pretend that he's superior to us because we're sitting here trying to have conversations and presenting evidence. And then Frank's like, nobody can present evidence for God. How do you know that, Frank? Because you've got an answer for everything. No, I don't. Unlike you, when I'm a smug prick, it's actually deserved. That was me being a smug prick, but so Derek's a theist,
Also,
pronouns are him. I'm sorry.
There's a lot of other hosts on the line as well, and we all have the same experience of not having evidence for a God presented to us. So it's a poor argument already. Anyways, sorry.
And it's not like there's only one God and one category of God and one category of evidence. I've done, I don't know how many videos on the nature of evidence, but my apologies. I put you on too quick, Derek, so my apologies. Derek's a theist is calling in that conscience as it pertains to the existence of God, according to a study done at Harvard. So I don't know what you're talking about, Derek, but how you doing?
Good, how are you? Okay, the study is done by Mark Hauser. He asked people a question. If a train is on a track and it's heading towards 10 people, would you pull a lever if you were able to divert the train and hit one person instead of 10? And everyone that answered the survey said yes, they would. So does that similarity, the similarity in conscience that everybody has, does that imply a unifying source of existence?
So, Derek, first of all, this is a trolley problem. They're thought experiments. Not everybody answers the same way, and it depends on how it's constructed. But the fact that there are many people, if not most people, who overwhelmingly add a certain way, tells us nothing other than that we're similar beings. I don't see what this has to do with a God.
You were asking on your last podcast about detection. Do you have any proof of detection of God? Would the fact that our conscience exists and exists in a similar manner, we believe the same things to be right and wrong.
No, we don't.
Each perform the same
but we
act,
don't.
Given a moral
we don't. But even we don't all agree on moral positions. But even if we did, why wouldn't that be? Hey, we're similar creatures in a similar universe trying to solve similar problems with similar values. That has nothing to do with whether or not there's a God. So how are we getting to a God here?
I think it has everything to do with the God. It has to do with the unifying source.
Okay, I didn't ask you what you think. I'm asking you to demonstrate it. I'm asking you, how do you get from people think similarly to therefore there's a God?
I'm not saying they think similarly. I'm saying they act similarly. When
I'm
there's
sorry,
a moral
actions are thoughts manifested. So you brought up a trolley problem, which is a think thing, and it's about how people think. And so I'm asking you, how does the fact that we think similarly demonstrate anything at all about whether or not there's a God?
I don't know how to answer.
Well, you're the one that called in with this as your evidence for God.
Let me ask you this. On a scale of 1 to 10.
No, Derek, you don't get to ask any questions right now.
Yeah,
you called in.
Derek,
Go ahead, promise. Oh, Derek ran away.
Yeah, you're kidding.
Yeah, no, he hung up on his own. I didn't do it.
God. For everything that you said, that would be my response, which is, okay, you see similarities in actions or thinking or whatever you want to say. Please demonstrate that that's how that means there's a God. it's very frustrating. It's like people didn't take the thought past this one thing. They wanted to believe something or need to believe something. They find this little stepping stone toward it, and they're like, okay, great. And then they stop the thinking altogether, and then they call us and are upset, apparently to the point of hanging up, when we want to know, okay, now, no, how do you get all the way to a God? Because all you did here was say people maybe think similarly or do differently or whatever. Very interesting.
Okay, I apologize. I'm going to take the first part of this because they're specifically talking to me, and then I'm going to again duck out. So Mike's calling from Mexico. Are you there, Mike?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Cool. Yeah. Let me address this real quick. It says, what version of God will Matt accept? And the answer to that is, I will accept any version of God and any version of anything for which there is sufficient evidence to warrant belief. Your second part of your question was, what type of evidence is acceptable? That depends entirely on what God someone is advocating for. If they say the universe is God, okay, I already believe the universe exists. I don't know why somebody's putting the God criteria on it. So we would need someone to say, this is how I'm defining God. And then I may not know what evidence would convince me, because I don't know how to tell the difference between some gods and just advanced technology that I don't understand. So the reason we ask this is, you tell us what God you believe in, and then you tell us why you believe and why you think we should believe. And then we can either say, yes, that's a good reason, we agree, or no, that's not a good reason, and we don't agree. I can't tell you what evidence I would accept for a God that there's plenty of different God concepts. So that's as quick as I can to answer to your questions. If you can tell us what God you believe in and why you believe, we can explain why that isn't sufficient. Or maybe it is.
Well, I mean, I guess when I say that, because God's a very broad concept. I mean, I know you mentioned earlier you didn't like somebody saying God is the universe, and
yeah,
Spinoza had something.
Mike, yeah. The last thing any of us need is a lecture on abstract concepts of God and Spinoza's God. I need you to say what God it is you're convinced of and why.
Well, okay, I'll just hop off here because I don't really care to get, I'm not trying to be dishonest. I don't want to get accused of being dishonest or things like that. But do you have a video that I can reference where you kind of have acceptable concepts of God or what you consider what must be here for consider God?
Mike, yeah. Do you believe in a God?
I do.
What God do you believe in?
I believe in the God of Abraham.
Why?
Why do I believe in the God of Abraham?
Yes. Why was it so easy to answer the first two, and then why needed a rephrasing? But go ahead. Why?
Why I believe in the God of Abraham? Because it's a complex situation. I think that's what comports to reality. It's not a simple bumper sticker. That's why I asked. I don't believe in God as like this Thanos type figure. That's not my conception of God. That's why I'm not trying to waste your guys' time. That's why I called and said, hey, what will you find acceptable? Yeah.
Do you think that we won't even bring Matt into this. Do you think that I should believe in the God of Abraham?
I don't know anything about you. I can't say that.
Do you think that humans in general should believe in the God of Abraham?
There's value to have from it. I've people in my life encountered value from it. I encounter value from it because part of what God is a way to interact with the world.
Mike, this is going to go best if you just answer the questions we ask and only the questions we ask, because otherwise it's just going to turn into something else. So, so you think there's value to be had in believing that this God exists?
Correct.
Can you tell me what your evidence is for the existence of this God?
My evidence is the effect it's had upon my life. That's my evidence. Other things, I'll keep it short.
Do you understand that something having positive impact or any impact on your life is not evidence of a God existing? Because I have very positive, a positive testimony, we can call it, to share about no longer believing that a God exists. And don't claim that that's evidence that a God doesn't exist. It's just part of my story, which is that my life got better when I stopped believing that a God exists. So I believe you that you've had positive experiences in your life. How do you know that those are evidence of a God existing? How do you know that your life didn't change because you had a change in mindset that made you more diligent about something, or because you maybe just had a chemical change in your brain due to something else that you are not aware of? How do you know that it was a God that caused you to experience this personal change?
Okay, and here's a point of clarification. I think that we're using the term God different. And so I think because of that, we're going to miscommunicate. God is a utterance in both our vocabularies, but we're operating of different languages. That's why
Mike, I don't mean anything other than I'm talking about your God. So if you would like to define your God for us, you're welcome to do that. What God do you believe in?
Points.
You said the God of Abraham. So what characteristics does this God have?
Okay, one of the approaches, I do not define God. God is not something I can define. For me to define something, which means I must be able to get outside of it, fully encapsulate it, and combat. God is not something I define. It's something I encounter experientially.
Mike, is there anything you know? Is there anything that you know about this God?
Anything I know about this God? In terms of I know the experiences from it, the course of life it puts me on.
Mike,
yeah, there's things
is there anything that you know about this God?
Yes, I mean, there's things I believe I know about this God, correct, there is.
Can you please share those things?
Just one.
Well, the simplest way I'd probably put it was say, the closest conception would be like a God is the ground of being, and also if you want to get close to it, think of God in terms of like the absolute spirit for behavior.
Mike.
I don't know what an absolute spirit is.
Yeah,
well,
and I don't know what a ground of being. I don't know what a ground of being is. I don't know what an absolute spirit is. I don't know why being needs a ground. I don't know what it means for being to have a ground. I don't know what absolute spirit is. I don't know anything about spirit. You are just throwing out nonsense words and not telling us anything about the God you believe in.
Well, I mean, nonsense. I mean, absolute spirit's going back to Hegel. That's not nonsense. The ground of being, Paul
Mike,
Tillich, I'm not mentioning nonsense.
Hey, Mike, yes or no? Is this God all?
Difficult.
I can mute you if you're going to ignore me the way that you keep doing. Is this God all powerful? Yes or no?
No.
It's not all powerful. Okay.
No.
Is this God all knowing?
Why?
Nope. Is this God all knowing?
No. The only way I can answer that would be no.
Is this God a being?
Yes, but you can't you got to be careful about how you apply that term because it can lead to confusion.
You just said yes. So by being, do you think this is a thinking agent?
By being, I'm talking about is not an entity among other entities.
I'm sorry, like Mike, the question that I asked you is, do you think it's a thinking agent?
I will say yes. I believe it's a thinking agent.
Why?
That's not going to be a simple explanation. That's why I was calling to get home.
Mike,
hold on,
Mike.
Can I say
no,
something?
you don't. Mike, you don't ever tell me to hold on my show. Ever. Okay?
I muted him.
We're asking very specific questions. And part of this is we're getting answers to some of them, which is why you get to keep hanging around. But we're not getting answers to others. And that's incredibly telling. Because, for example, let me ask Promise. When you believed in God, did you believe that God was a thinking agent?
I did.
Why?
When I started asking those questions, I realized I didn't have a good reason, but because other people had expressed to me that this God was a thinking agent, I was reading the Bible. I thought that the Bible was fact, and I thought that I had communicated with this God. I thought that this God created everything and therefore must be a thinking agent because I thought this God had intention behind it. So,
yeah. So, Promise, like me, believed in a thinking agent God, an agent with purpose and design. A God that created everything. Whether or not it's all powerful, in a sense that is non-logically contradictory or all-knowing, or whether it knows the future. None of that is relevant. But the thing is, when we ask questions, they're designed to get us to some sort of clarity, because you're calling in to say that you're a theist, you believe in a God, and you wanted to know about what sort of evidence we would expect or accept. I've not only done a bunch of videos on my personal channel, which you can go and look at, about the nature of evidence, but also when somebody says, hey, what would change your mind about God? I have a very standard answer, and that is, I don't know. But if there is a God worth calling a God and worth caring about, that God should know exactly what should change my mind, should be capable of producing a change in my mind. And the fact that this hasn't happened means that either that God doesn't exist or does not want me to know it exists. Either way, it's not my problem. When somebody tells me they believe in a God and I ask why, I don't need them to tell me it's complicated or what. Let's just dig in. What's the first reason? What's the best reason? Oh, I believe because I believe the Bible. I believe because I think there had to be a first cause. I believe because I think reality needs some grounding. And then we ask follow-up questions, which are, what do you mean by grounding for reality? Why isn't reality just what it is, or whatever? What do you mean? And we can move down that path. But what happens over and over again is we get people like you. No, this is not, I'm not smacking you around with this, who want to find out what would change our mind. And the answer is, I don't know. What changed your mind? Because if you're a rational person with evidence, then I should believe what you believe. Whatever reason you have for believing should be good enough for me. And if your reason is not good enough for me, I should be able to explain to you why it's not, and potentially convince you that it's not a good enough reason for you to believe either. That's the whole purpose of this. Is that clear? Does it make sense now?
Yeah, I believe what you're getting at. So then here's what I'll say. If you ask me why I came to accept, okay, because one, I looked at God and said, okay, I'm not going to think of God in terms of being. I'm going to initially approach it as God is a label for a method of interacting with the world. That's how I first approached it.
Okay. I'm not interested in a method for interacting with the world. That's a bunch of nonsense. That is not consistent with any usage of God with which I am familiar. Is skepticism a method of interacting with the world?
Yes. Can be, yes.
Cool. Is realism a method? Are we talking about philosophical methods? Because I'm not aware of how any God could be a method of interacting with the world. And I'm not aware of any method that is also a thinking agent. So it would seem that, is it a thinking agent?
I have come to believe that God's a thinking agent, yes.
Cool.
That was not how I initially came into it.
Please explain why you're convinced that it is a thinking agent.
I don't have you ask. Okay. I can take you through the rationale, but it's not short. That's why I'm not trying to waste your time. You ask me why I can.
You are absolutely wasting my time.
I called him to not do that. Say, hey, here's what
you
you
fucking
want.
failed.
Don't do that.
You fucking failed.
Because you haven't told me what you're looking for, and I don't want to waste your time.
I did in fact tell you what I was looking for and explained in great detail the problems with epistemology, including not being able to tell the difference between advanced technology and something that's truly from a God. And I pointed out that in every scenario, there's no way for me to say, here's what I'll accept. I need you to first explain what the claim is, and then we can evaluate how we can go about demonstrating the claim. The only other option is to do what we've been doing, which is to ask you what convinced you, and then either explain why we don't agree, and perhaps why you shouldn't, or why we do agree.
So my initial foray into God was looking at God as not as a being and as a modality of interacting with the world. That's why I called in and say, you say, well, that's not something you accept with the term God. Okay, then I wouldn't have to waste your time beyond that, because that's how I initially came to it. And so if you won't accept the usage of that word, then I'm not trying to waste your time. You can tell me, hey, I only accept God if you're using that to apply to a being, an entity, kind of like us. And I said,
No,
oh, okay,
see,
I'm a different place.
This is the thing there. This is the thing there, Captain Dishonest.
Well,
I'm
don't call me
willing.
dishonest, brother. Back the fuck up. You don't have to call me dishonest.
You are
That's
dishonest.
not right.
You back the fuck up,
That's
you
not
dishonest
right.
motherfucker, because I'm asking you what you're
I know
advocating.
I came here to get notes to call back later. You won't
I'm
tell me
asking
anything.
you. I gave you the fucking notes, and there's no point in you calling back later, because the thing you were looking for isn't something that somebody can present to you, which I fucking explained. And if you weren't so dishonest, you'd have already got this.
Well, back up calling me dishonest. That's not completely right. I came up here. Hey, let me get some information. Dishonest. I'll call back and have some prepared.
You won't call back. I don't know what makes you think you're going to decide whether or not you call back, you dishonest fuck.
All you do is insulting people. Like, I came in here to say, hey, like,
no, sir, you're a liar.
Earlier.
You're absolutely a liar.
Well,
I don't just insult people. I started off treating you with mountains of respect, answering your questions, and when you demonstrated your dishonesty, I called a spade a spade. But you're going to cry. You're going to cry like a little baby, as if you were fucking wrong.
It's dishonest.
You weren't fucking
saying,
wrong.
hey, you asking it's a basis for some complex question, and me not be able to spit out an answer.
No, you're not even attempting to spit out any answer, you dishonest fuck. Which is why I'm going to keep pointing out that you're a dishonest fuck.
I called in so I could get some parameters to see if the structure response properly. I was going to call in to take notes. You said, hey, I wish the TVs would take notes and call back. That's what I was thinking to do.
Mike, did you take notes? What did I tell you I would accept for evidence?
It's recorded. I can go back and listen to it. I got a video.
You dishonest fuck. I'm asking you right now, what did I tell you you would need to do to present for me to answer your question about what evidence it was? What did I tell you?
Well, right now I'm a little bit emotional because you're cussing at me and calling me dishonest.
Well, now you're emotional. Did your feelings get hurt because you were dishonest and I called you out on it?
Dishonest? Like, you don't know anything about me. You're calling me dishonest. I don't think that's
I know everything about you in the span of this call that you have. Span of this call. Yes, really. In the span of this call, I know everything that is relevant to determining that you are dishonest in this call.
So it's already established. Like, if I come in and say God's a modality of interaction, you go, well, you won't accept that. So why can't you tell me like
no, sir, I'm going to mute you. You're a liar. I did not say that I would not accept that God is a modality of interaction. I said that I'm not aware of any modality of interaction, no method of interacting that is also a thinking agent. Can you explain that? And you fucking failed and didn't try. And now, because you are so absolutely weak at even describing basic concepts or having any sort of discussion, you're now suggesting that I denounced the possibility of considering God as a method of interacting, which is a blatant fucking lie. You can go back and rewind. I did not say that. I asked you to demonstrate why it should be considered a God, why it's a thinking agent. I've done nothing but ask you questions and give you opportunity, but you are dishonest as fuck and will not. And now you are lying about what I've said. And yet all of this is recorded. So I guess my follow-up question is, are you just a prank caller trolling, or are you legitimately so dumb that you think you can flat out lie about what I said in a recording that people can check and verify what was actually said? Which one is it?
Like, that's a real question, man. I mean, look, let's see. All I can say is the reason I called, that's the reason I called. I wanted to come out and see, because like, if I told you,
I don't need you to repeat yourself. See, this is what dishonest people do when they get called out. Instead of making any new case, any new argument, instead of saying, here's the thing, your goal here is to waste our time, despite saying that you're not trying to waste our time. And that's why you're still on, even though I've put you on hold. And now I'm going to treat you like a 2-year-old, because you only get to speak when you answer the question that we asked. So what reason do you have for thinking that your method of interacting with reality is in fact a thinking agent.
Oh, where am I going to go at this point? I mean, I came in.
I knew it. You can't just come on and babble stuff to waste our time and have us sit here and ask you, how do you know that? Why do you believe that? Why do you believe that? You want to know what evidence we'll accept? I'll accept pretty much any actual evidence that is consistent with and supports the claim. Evidence is not merely facts consistent with, but data that more strongly support one particular claim over competing claims. You don't understand the basics of epistemology, which was very evident by your first question. And I answered it. I went through your thing before you got to say a word to specifically address your concerns. And what you failed to grasp, maybe you will now when you rewind, was that the key thing we're both telling you is that we can't tell you in advance, I would accept this particular piece of data as evidence for this particular God. That is absolutely antithetical to how evidence works. You make a claim, you then define the claim and the terms of the claim. And then you try to make a case for that claim, and that case either succeeds or fails. If it's fallacious, it fails. If it's not supported by true things, it fails. You want somebody to tell you in advance what evidence they'll accept, because you know, if you were to just say why you believe, we wouldn't accept it because you already know it's irrational. You already know it isn't empirical. You already know that you're spewing out buzzwords of abstract concepts that you would love to make it, oh, it's a God, but it's this and it's this. Oh, no, it's a Christian God, but it's not, and it's this and it's that. It is completely like, it is 100% bong rip theology. 100%. I don't know. I don't know what to do anymore, promise. It's like they ask me what evidence I'll accept. I have to go through and give a lecture on what we can and can't accept. And then it's really simple. I used to believe in a God. If somebody said, what God do you believe in? I believe in the God of Holy Scripture, the God of the Bible, the God who is the creator and sustainer of the universe, the God who is the foundation of morality, not by divine edict, but by the nature of his character. I believe in Jesus Christ, which is God manifest, born of a virgin, to live life as a human, to be sinless and blameless, in order to die as a substitutionary atonement for our sins, because nothing we can do can ever make up for our sins. And I believe that that is the nature of reality, that those things are true. And if somebody said why, at different times when I was a believer, I would have answered that question a little differently. I would have initially said, probably, well, doesn't everybody? I mean, I'm at church and everybody around me believes. And then that was when I was 5. And then it would have been, oh, because I feel it. I'm in church and we're singing and praying and I can feel what other people say is the Holy Spirit. And then a little bit further down the line, it would have been because I read scripture in greater detail as I was 12, 13, beginning down that path. And I came to understand what the scriptures mean about things. And the scripture convicted me as a worthless sinner in need of salvation and gave me the claim of what God has done for reality. And then convicts you so that the presence of the Holy Spirit, the divine presence of God, manifests in your life in a way that changes you fundamentally forever once you have turned from sin and been redeemed. And then when I got a little older, it would have been, all of this is also supported by these particular philosophical arguments about morality, about reality. I would have been able to go down all of those things, and I get it. I'm the weirdo. Because when I walked down the aisle at the age of 5 and accepted Jesus into my heart, I took this shit seriously. When some of my friends at church decided, I want to go be Catholic because they let you drink, they didn't take it as seriously as I did. When the people who sat next to me in the pews at church said, I don't know anything about that other stuff. I don't know anything about philosophy. I don't know anything about epistemology. What's epistemology even mean? I just know, I know that Jesus Christ is Lord. And those would have been many of my really bad reasons. I wouldn't have been able to give you good reasons. I'm not convinced that good reasons exist, but I'm still open to those good reasons being presented. If you have at some period in time, very briefly, I no longer believed in Christianity, but I tried to continue believing in some sort of abstract God, some sort of consciousness, some sort of universe, some sort of guiding force, right down to Spinoza's God, but none of it made any sense because either the claims were untestable, or if they were testable, they were without evidential support, or the arguments for those things were fallacious, and it kept coming up against this brick wall. How could we ever confirm anything beyond nature? We are in a box. How can I confirm what's out of the box? How can I confirm that there is anything that counts as out of the box? What if the walls of the room I'm in extend forever in every direction, completely solid, and there is no outside? It's presumptive to think that there's a wall with something on the other side of this. That is how I built a process of assessing my views. And I get it. I've done this for 20 years. I probably couldn't have given that answer 18 years ago. When callers call in, I don't expect them to be able to do that. But when they call in and they're like, well, it's complex and it's complicated, I already know that they have not paid attention to this show. They have not paid attention to epistemology. They have not paid attention to skepticism. They have not paid attention to their belief. They're just calling in because they kind of feel it and they want to talk about it, or they're trolls. And I need a way to tell the difference between the callers who are sincere but sincerely confused and the callers who are sincerely just trying to waste everybody's time. I've tried a lot of different things to find out how to tell the difference. We're just going to have to accept that it's going to keep failing. But don't you dare tell me that I wouldn't accept your God definition when I literally asked you to follow up and explain what makes you think it's personal. If you're just going to call in and lie, and you're just mean to everybody who calls in, well, okay, I'm mean to dipshits. I'm mean to people who are dishonest. I have great conversations with sincere believers on a regular basis, even if they have really stupid, fallacious reasoning. All they got to do is explain what it is so that we have something to consider, something to discuss. Maybe they change their mind. Maybe they don't. I don't know. But let's try. We've got three theists on hold. I would like to get to all of you. So Omar, Cassie, and Jesse, please, all of you hang on. Thank you for calling. I'm going to take one that is not a return caller to start with. So Cassie is a theist from Missouri, pronouns are she, her, says that a God that is not readily apparent is not necessarily useless. I kind of agree, Cassie, but how are you?
Oh, I'm fine, thank you. First time calling, so I'm a little nervous.
Well, I'll make it easy. You're welcome here. I think I agree with your point. I'm not sure. Well, you go ahead. You make your point.
Oh, okay. You said something earlier about like a god that doesn't like interact or something being useless. I don't remember exactly what you said. Sorry.
Yeah, a God that doesn't manifest in reality in any detectable way is useless from my frame of reference.
Okay. Well, would it matter if the god or gods brought purpose to someone's life, or it was like filled a
That's a
god or a
separate. That's more. That's answering the question of does belief in a god have some benefits? That's not answering questions about this god itself.
Hmm.
Yeah, we fully acknowledge, Cassie, that there are people who find value in their religious beliefs, and the value is there whether those beliefs are true or not. Like, I would imagine, I don't, sorry, what?
Oh, nothing. I just said all right.
Yeah. So I don't know what particular God you accept, but somebody else believes.
I'm a Hellenistic polytheist. Whatever. I'm a Hellenist.
Okay.
The Greek gods or whatever.
So there's somebody who believes in a God that you don't believe in, right?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Somebody out there believes in a God that you don't believe in, right?
Yeah. For
Cool.
sure.
Is it possible? Well, the God they believe in and the gods you believe in can't both exist, right?
Well, I would say I don't know that, to be honest. I mean, maybe depending on which god it is, but
do you realize that there are Christians out there, for example, who believe that the God of the Bible is the only God, and therefore every other God that you believe in doesn't exist? And so its existence is mutually exclusive. It cannot be the case that the Christian God exists and Zeus exists, right?
yeah, I would agree with that.
So, and yet I think we could probably agree that you can find value and purpose in your beliefs around a Greek pantheon or whatever, and somebody else can find value and purpose from their belief in Jesus, right?
Yeah.
Cool. And yet those things both can't be true. The gods can't both be true. So the value comes not from the gods themselves, but from the belief in those gods. That's what Promise
Yeah,
was saying.
I would say maybe a belief in something divine in general.
Yeah. I don't believe in anything divine at all. That's what Promise was getting at.
Oh, well, do you not think that, like, for some people, they do have that, like, God or God-shaped hole, and they need some kind of spirituality in their life to have, like, meaning or purpose, or
no, but
that
even to the
isn't
extent,
necessary for some people?
no, but even to the extent that that might be true, that doesn't mean that there's a God to fill it. See, it's been said that religions convince you that you're sick so they can provide the cure. But I think religions lie to you and say you're sick when you're not, so they can present you with the homeopathic remedy, because homeopathy is bullshit and doesn't do anything. So when we say somebody's got a God-shaped hole in their heart or in their life, that's basically us making a pronouncement that that person needs something else. Well, what if the thing they need doesn't exist?
Doesn't exist? What do you mean?
Well, I don't even know how to explain what I mean. If somebody needs a particular affirming being that knows them internally and no such being exists, then they have a need that cannot be fulfilled, right?
Well, I think it's hard to know that because there's so many like religions and beliefs out there that like I'm sure there's
No, I'm not
something they haven't
saying.
really found yet.
No, I'm okay. I can't
Sorry.
explain it.
Yeah. Cassie, I think what we're getting at is people can be convinced that these beliefs are helping them, and maybe sometimes the beliefs in some sort of way are helping them or are acting as a band-aid. I don't believe that there's anything exclusive to religion that people, quote, need, that can't be found elsewhere and in more beneficial ways. So I don't think Matt and I are going to disagree with you that there are people that find meaning and value in religion. Of course, that's why I believe it continues on. That doesn't make it true or not. And that's what we care more about on this show is it true? Does this God or do these gods exist or not?
All right. I mean, that's fair enough. Sorry, I guess I kind of wasted your time a bit. I am a big fan though. Thank you for answering me.
No problem. Sure. Thanks for calling in. I still think it's an interesting thing, but yeah, it gives us a chance to clarify that we do this sometimes on the show, that we understand that people do find value in it, but that doesn't make something true. I found value in it until I didn't.
I want to do something for just a second as sort of a potential act of kindness. Do you have any interest in defending the specifics of what you believe about gods?
Okay. I mean, I feel like I've had prayers and stuff answered, but I don't know if I can really defend it, to be honest. It's like, because, I've prayed for things that probably could have happened, regardless, but it's just like a positive reinforcement thing, maybe. I don't know.
Okay. I was mainly asking to see if you wanted to actually defend it or not. And because I don't want to put somebody on the spot if they called about something else, because like I genuinely, I don't understand.
Yeah, I think it was just a misunderstanding. I thought you were saying something like different from what you were actually saying, I think, when you made that one statement earlier. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. I just anytime somebody tells me they believe in a God, I want to know, not just what God, but why. But yeah.
All right.
But yeah, if that's not what you're ready to actually defend, then we'll just move on to other callers.
Yeah, go ahead and move on. I'd like to listen more. Sorry.
Okay.
All good. Thanks so much, Cassie.
Yeah, it's we definitely want theist callers, but not every theist caller must be, here's my God and everything else. If you have questions that are relevant to atheists and stuff like that, I mean, we're happy to explain it. But in this case, I think it's just a misunderstanding.
Tell us, I don't want to defend it. Yeah, exactly. We've got two more.
Yep.
Two more of them left. Maybe now we'll hear evidence for the existence of a God.
I hope so, because Omar is calling and says, I want to present my evidence of the Christian God. So, hey, Omar, you are live. How are you?
I'm well, Matt. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm exhausted.
Yeah. I've heard some of the last few callers, and I know it can certainly be exhausting, probably on both sides. But thanks for taking my call. Thanks for giving me a few minutes. As I mentioned when I called in, I simply want to present why I believe and what my evidence is for belief in the Christian God. So,
sure.
a little
Can I
bit
ask
of,
you?
Sure.
Can I ask you, Omar? Do you think that Matt and I should believe this God exists?
Well, that's your choice, depending on what you do
I'm
with
not.
the evidence.
That's so, Omar. That's not the question. Do you think that Matt and I should believe that this God exists? Do you actually?
Absolutely.
Let me rephrase this. Is it cool? Is there a reason for Matt and I to believe this God exists?
Is there a reason for you and Matt to believe this God exists?
Yes.
Yes, there is.
Or evidence? Cool. Can you tell us what that evidence is or reason, however we want to word this?
Sure. So what I'm going to do, and this is what I explained when I called in, was I'm going to share
No,
my evidence
Omar,
and why
I'm giving,
I believe in the
no,
Christian God. But you're
that's not,
changing.
so that's,
Yeah.
I'm going to mute you for just a second. Just for time's sake and everything, because we're getting near the end and it's 12:30 at night my time, so I'm eager to stay on track. The question is not, how do you want to do this? How do you want to go about this? This is how we do it. I'm asking if you think that there is a reason or if there's evidence for Matt and I to believe, and I'd love for you to present that. If you think it happens to be the same reasons that you believe, that's great. That would make more sense. But if you don't have, if you already think this isn't a reason for them to believe, then I'm not interested in continuing the call further. So I'll ask again, is there evidence for Matt and I to believe in the existence of this God? And can you please present it if so?
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yep.
Okay, sure. So there is very good reason to believe it. Matt actually articulated it very well a couple callers ago when he was explaining Christian theology
Can you
how
just say it for us, Omar?
didn't.
Can you just answer the question, please?
Yeah, I'm gonna answer the question and I'm gonna get right to it. So your question is loaded.
You shouldn't
have
need
a
to.
loaded question.
No. Now I'm fucking talking. So at no point in this entire show or in the entire history of this show has Matt presented evidence for the existence of the Christian God. Not fucking once. So when you say that I just did it a call or so ago, you're already wrong, and I don't need you to repeat what I said because nothing I said is evidence for the existence of God. Now, having said all that,
Here I sit, having heard what Matt said earlier, and I still remain unconvinced that a God exists. So you still have me to deal with as well.
So let's try again. What evidence do you have for the Christian God?
Sure. The evidence that I have for the Christian God, there's supernatural evidence, there's historical evidence. You dismiss all of that because your questions are loaded to begin with. You don't believe in anything outside of the natural world.
Are you calling to have an... Okay, I'm going to mute you. I was hoping that you were just going to be able to answer our questions. They're not loaded. It is a very simple question that is needed in order to have this conversation, which is, what is the evidence that could convince Matt and I? And you are already starting with, well, you aren't going to believe, blah, blah. You have already poisoned the well. You're not answering the questions. You're also ignoring me. So I'd like to let you try one last time. And then I don't know that I want to keep talking to you. Maybe Matt will. Maybe I'll be the one that has to get up and walk away.
It's wild because he's already started. See, he's a little upset because he thinks we just refuse to believe anything that isn't natural. But that's not true. I'll believe anything, natural or otherwise, the second I've been presented with sufficient evidence.
Right.
Nothing I presented was sufficient evidence. That's the thing. So, what evidence is sufficient to justify belief in God? Last chance.
Last chance. Perfect. You said 10 minutes ago, we cannot confirm anything outside of the box called nature. It's presumptive to think of anything outside of the box.
Correct.
Now you are lying. Now you are lying, saying, I'll believe anything. You move the goalpost.
No, sir. No, sir. Here, let me explain because you were too stupid to not get angry about this. I have no ability to investigate beyond the bounds of the universe. That means I would be unjustified in saying there's a God beyond those bounds, and it would be unjustified to claim that there is not a God beyond those bounds. If you have the ability to investigate beyond the bounds of the universe, you can present it and show that I'm wrong about what is apparently the current limitations that everybody else seems to accept about what we can verify. You don't get to accuse me of lying by misrepresenting my position. My position is that we are currently, apparently, prevented from exploring beyond the bounds of the universe. That means it would be unjustified to say there is a God beyond those bounds, and it would be unjustified to say that there's not a God beyond those bounds. You are calling in to say that there is a God, presumably beyond those bounds. And all you have to do is demonstrate how one can know that. And you will prove me wrong on two things. But suggesting that I said something I didn't just because you didn't understand it is not going to work. So let's try this again. What is your method for exploring beyond the bounds of the universe?
By starting with you not moving the goalposts and asking.
Okay, I'm going to mute you again. No goalposts have been moved. I'm literally saying, as far as I can tell, we are limited by the bounds of the universe with what we can investigate. And I have asked you, and I will ask you one last time.
Also, just a reminder, Omar, that I'm here as well. So you have another person to convince as well and to provide this evidence for. And I haven't put up any posts or anything. So I don't know why you're talking when we're still talking either.
Because Omar's full of shit.
It shouldn't matter who you're talking to, present the evidence. There's also thousands of other people listening to this. So maybe if you can't get through to Matt or I, maybe Matt and I are so stupid and we just can't hear your evidence, but maybe there are other people that will. So ready, set, evidence, please.
I'm stepping out of this because you seem to be really bothered by me and my positions. So I'm going to let you deal with Promise. But don't bring me up again. I'm sorry. I was still talking.
We're in the middle of talking.
Don't bring me up again, and don't lie about what I've said. So, Promise, please continue.
Sure.
All right, Omar, I'm ready for. I'm in the middle of talking. I'm ready for your evidence, but let's pretend that Matt doesn't even exist. You've never heard anything that Matt has said before, nor have I. So what is your evidence that this God exists?
Here's my evidence that this God exists. And I quote, "How do you know it wasn't a chemical change in your brain to make you experience something good?" Those are your words. That is an example of you moving the goalposts no matter what is presented. This is what you trolls do.
Okay. I am going to give you one last chance, mostly for other people to hear how dishonest you are. Pretend like I am a new person. My name is Jane. We've never spoken before. All you know about me is that I don't believe a God exists. Now, can you please tell me why I should believe that the God you believe in exists?
I will do it. Can you promise me you won't move the goalposts as I present the evidence? Or
okay,
Omar, my name is Jane. I've never spoken with you before. There are no goalposts. I would just like you to actually be honest and be able to provide evidence.
Perfect.
Otherwise, I'm going to think that you're a troll.
Perfect.
Ready?
Jane,
go.
I want to talk to Jane. Perfect. I've dealt with the two trolls. Jane, you're not biased. You're not moving the goalposts. So there's plenty of evidence if you look at it.
I don't know what you're even talking about or who you're talking about. My name is Jane. I don't know anything beyond this moment. What is your evidence that a God exists? Ready, go.
Perfect. Jane, I would say take a look at the world around you. Take a look at yourself. Take a look at all of the things in the world. And
did you do all of this for look at the trees?
Jane. Trolls. You got to be trolls again. You.
Okay, Omar, you're done.
There's no trolling.
A minute ago, Omar said, quote, "How do you know it wasn't a chemical change in your brain?" He's saying you said that, and that's moving the goalpost. I'm sorry, but first of all, that's a question. It's not moving the goalpost. It's asking someone, how do you know that it wasn't a chemical change in the brain? How did you rule out? See, here's the thing, Omar, and you're not going to get to speak again, but you are going to fucking listen. When we look at something, we see it, have an observation, we would like to have some sort of explanation for why that thing is the way it is. Why does something exist rather than nothing? Why is the universe the way it is? Why is it this way? I think there's a God. Why do you think that? We want an explanation. And when somebody says, oh, the best explanation is that a God did it, and we say, how did you rule out this alternate explanation? That's not moving the goalpost. I'm sorry that you're too stupid to know what moving the goalposts mean. We're not establishing goalposts. You are both saying, I made a goal, and here's where the goalposts are. And then we will say, yes, we agree, goal well made, or that's not a goal that we would accept and agree about. See, when I say that, I love the fact that he's still talking. When I say nobody can hear you, it's funny that we are apparently limited in our ability to explore beyond the bounds of the universe. I'm not the one claiming to know something outside the bounds of the universe. You are. And so what we're asking is, how do you know that? That's it. And the answer is, Omar doesn't know that, which is why the last time he called, it was about the Bible doesn't encourage slavery, proving that Omar doesn't know the Bible either. So I'm so happy that I'm living rent-free in your head, Omar. It is, I wish you'd fix the air conditioner. It's a little stuffy in here. And I'll make sure that I tell your mom later that you were on the internet when you weren't supposed to be. All right. Let's see if we have some real theists.
Oh, boy.
Germ's calling from California. Hello? Germ's a theist, pronouns are he, him. Has a note here about gods of the founding fathers. Hey, Germ, how are you?
Amazing. I really enjoyed the last call. Hope we all look and laugh at it someday, you know?
So what did you want to talk about?
Well, I got about 100 words. I'm hoping it gets through everything quickly. Okay. To what extent did the founding fathers believe politics were essentially a religious endeavor and create gods?
Okay,
hold on. This isn't a show about history or discussing the founding fathers. It's just, what God do you believe in and why? So I'm confused why we're talking about founding fathers. Also, I guess you mean of the U.S.? Like, you just kind of came out of nothing with this. I'm confused.
Yeah, I also don't need you to read to me, nor am I interested in your thoughts or anybody else's thoughts on the gods of the founding fathers and what they thought and what they didn't think. It's not relevant. So
yeah, they also owned other people as slaves, so really don't hold their opinions very highly.
I understand. Well, if we can just jump straight to my beliefs, if that would help you.
That's the whole point of the show.
Yeah, what God do you believe in?
I just want to say out front, I don't think that gods have to exist for us to coexist. You know, even though
that's not the question.
My theist hat.
That's not the question. Nor do I give a shit. I don't care what you want to get out of the way. You know what I want to get out of the way? Evidence for the existence of a God. Well, I don't know why everybody feels they got to do a fucking preamble and tell their backstory and give their thoughts and what the extent of it is. And I don't think this. And just what reason do you have for us to believe that a God exists? Go.
I just see God as like a vast vision that we're pursuing, you know, and that's sufficient for me. And that's all I wanted to say. I wanted your opinion on that, and I appreciate it.
My opinion would be that that's not a good reason to believe something.
I understand.
Do you care if what you believe is true or not?
I think we all deserve the same religious protection, though. You know, I don't want an atheist ruling my life either. You know, just like you don't want a theist ruling your life.
So I think you're really confused about what the point of this is. It's not for you to call in and give us all your opinions on all these different things. Do you think that Matt and I should believe in whatever God you believe in?
Well, enough that I have a voice, yeah. And I mean,
okay,
I don't want to like get into the
that's
woods
just a
with
yes
an
or no.
argument or anything either.
That's a yes or no.
I just want
this entire show is getting into the woods with the argument. So if you're not,
no, goodbye.
Okay. There's just no theists that have anything. What? Very interesting. Is it a full moon or something? Because I don't understand.
All right. Let's try this.
We do have one last one.
Yeah, I saw. Amir's calling from the UK. Theist pronouns are him. Philosophical proof that God's existence is more likely than unlikely.
With a twist, it says, by the way.
Is this some kind of abductive argument?
Can you guys both hear me in the first instance?
Sorry?
Can you both hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Cool. So I just wanted to, in the first instance, just say, can we all agree that the reason why we're having these conversations is because we're all trying to get closer to the truth?
Amir, I don't know how much time you spent watching the show, but I feel like I've said the same thing 93 times today. So for future callers, I don't need to ask if we can hear you okay. If we can't, we'll figure that out, but we just really need to get into it. But no, we don't need to have a preamble discussion about why we're all here. I'm here because I would like to see if people are able to present good reasons to believe in a God or the supernatural or anything in the realm like that. I don't know why the callers are here. I would hope that some of them are here to actually present that case. Skipping all the preamble and that we can hear you. The question I asked was whether or not this is an abductive argument, but now I don't care. What is the philosophical proof of God's existence that you wanted to talk about?
Just want to prefix it by saying one thing, just one.
No. Not just no. Fuck no. What the fuck is wrong with you and everybody else that I can literally sit here and say, I don't need a preamble, I need to get to it, and yet you feel the need to impose your personal bullshit over what we've just asked you to do? No, fuck no, let's get to it. Okay, let's try this again. Amir, what is the philosophical proof for God's existence that you wanted to talk about?
Okay, I'm going to present the argument, but I need to ask a question first.
No, you fucking don't. There is not a single valid and sound argument in the history of the world that requires you ask a question first. If you do this one more time, I'm going to assume that you are calling in intentionally to waste our time. For the final time, what philosophical argument did you call in to discuss?
I wanted to first ask, would I be able to bring an AI to argue the case for the existence?
I have hung up on Amir. That is the final caller for the show. Amir, if you just wanted to ask us, can you bring an AI in? I can't stop you. But honestly, at this point, I'm thinking that next week's Sunday show should just be whatever hosts are here actively arguing with ChatGPT or some other AI, because it has to be better than the fuckers who keep calling in to do this. It has to be. It has to be better for me to spend my time arguing with an artificial intelligence because the real intelligence is too fucking stupid. The very thing I can sit here and say, we don't need a preamble. I don't need your backstory. You don't have to. There is not a valid and sound argument. There is no scientific paper, no scientific presentation of evidence for a scientific finding that needs to start by asking the reader a question. There is no answer from us that is remotely relevant. Oh, can I bring in an AI? I can't fucking stop you. For all I know, I've been doing nothing but talking to AIs for ages. But if I have to go through and put you on hold 3 or 4 times to say, please, what philosophical argument did you call in to discuss? I am now convinced you did not call in to discuss a philosophical argument. Because if I was a believer and I wanted to call in to present a version of the Kalam cosmological argument, I would say, I have a version of the Kalam cosmological argument to present. Okay. If I didn't know the name of it, I have an argument that I'm not sure the name of, but it's rooted in moral foundations. Cool. I have an argument. I don't know what you'd call it, but it's kind of about why there's something instead of nothing. Cool. Every single time you guys refuse to answer the question that you're asked. You're being disrespectful to us, to all of the other fucking trolls who are on hold waiting for their turn to be disrespectful as well. Disrespectful to the audience. You're being disrespectful to the countless believers out there who might want to actually present an argument for the existence of God, but they don't really know how, or they're not aware of the show and can't call in, or you're occupying line. You're occupying a line that we're paying for, which is a reminder, everybody out there, we're not reading super chats today, but you can throw in your $5 super chats right now to let those callers know that you're going to help paying for us to keep those lines open, in the hopes that someone will either A, present good reason for all of us to believe, B, present justification for true beliefs that we've missed, or C, present their evidence in a way where we can say, here's why we don't accept that and why we do or don't think you should. Because I can tell you out there, despite what you see from the callers, there are sincere believers. There are two former sincere believers sitting here today. There's an entire organization out there, recoveringfromreligion.org, that is there to have these sorts of conversations and to help people. There are organizations out there, national and international, working to encourage church-state separation, to make sure that atheists, non-believers, freethinkers, agnostics, secularists, skeptics, humanists, all have a place in the society, so that people's religious privilege, which is not only unjustified but unjust, does not impact all of the rest of us. It's exhausting. I don't understand. And at this point, I'm just convinced that there's nobody out there who's even willing to try, honestly. And that all that's happening is somebody's like, hey, there's this dude does a show on Sunday, and if you just babble and refuse to answer the question and then accuse him of moving the goalposts, he'll lose his shit on you. It's fucking hilarious. He will curse you out and motherfucker this, and it's great. It's great. But you know what? It's largely warranted. Dedicated my life to skepticism, humanism, and addressing religious questions in particular, because I see the harm that's done by it. Because I get people emailing about how they've been ostracized from their family, about how they wake up every day dealing with shame, feeling alone, and how not only have their parents and family members who have bought into a particular religion fundamentally further marginalized them on their own. They've now voted for and elected fascist Christian nationalists who appoint people who are incompetent, lie and take over the Supreme Court, violate the rule of law, eliminate the rule of law, ignore due process, and go after the most marginalized people, the tiny portions of human civilization that would just prefer to be left alone, are being propped up as boogeymen so that they can make more money and control more of the world and continue to rain shit down upon all of those beneath them. And the people beneath them are looking up saying, yes, dear leader, rain more of your blessed shit upon us. And your religion, yes, yours, is being used as a prop to help them. And most of you are complicit. So, thanks to everybody who tried to call. Thanks to the handful of people who might have been sincere. Thanks to Promise for exercising a massive amount of patience as I can't.
Mine was wearing thin too. It was some of, I think, the most dishonest calls we've gotten in a row, over and over and over again.
It is. If you're a Christian, if you're a Muslim, you should be embarrassed at the representatives that are calling in, because we're going to keep posting them. Because I don't know how to tell the difference between a batshit crazy believer and a troll pretending to be a batshit crazy believer. Because unlike the rest of you, I pretend to read minds on stage, but I can't actually read minds in that way. And so the trolls are going to get posted. And you know what they're going to do? They're going to make theists look stupid and dishonest. And you know what? When I was a Christian, I wasn't stupid. My dishonesty was gullibility and opting to continue lying to myself just slightly longer than I could rationally justify. Because I cared about the truth and I thought I had it. And when I found out I didn't, that mattered. That is the exercise of integrity. It means I don't sit down and debate lying fascists on a public stage after they say they're going to debate one topic and then concede and do something else. It's the same thing where I'm not going to stop calling them out. I don't care if YouTube cancels me. I don't care if we get no more subscribers. I don't care. I have a mission. It's not a job. I did this for years for free for an organization that can go fuck itself for stealing my emails. And I guess if any of you want to, there's probably a show they're doing right now that could use a little help. But this one's over. Promise, when do I get to see you again?
Good question. I think I'm taking the next month off to finish my book, which I can't wait for you guys to all read, but I have to turn in the last bits of my manuscript. And so I'll be focusing on that. But then hopefully in September, I'll be back more regularly to hang out with all of you. And I always love hosting with you, Matt. Even when we get shit callers, at least we get to turn to each other and laugh when it ends up with, look at the trees.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you. Morgan, is there anything I got to announce that I forgot? Other than the Sunday Show After Dark will be coming up in 2 hours and 12 minutes.
No, I think we're done.
Sweet. There are a bunch of other shows here. You can roll those credits. But in addition to this show, there's the Sunday Show After Dark on Monday nights. Tuesday, it's Chewed Gum with Promise and Alyssa, or Alyssa and somebody else, depending on who's around to do it. On Wednesday nights, I'm back for the Hang Up. And Thursdays, the Transatlantic Call-In Show at 2 p.m. Central. All the rest of them are at 6 p.m. Central. And there will be surprise shows. You can follow us here on YouTube, and you can go to patreon.com/calltheline, become a member, and get to go to exclusive private hangouts. Take care.
Nice.